Chapter 682. But the fire in his body is like a prairie fire burning crazily. Especially when Haitang's body is already slowly approaching him, those dark red lips are just inches away. That soft and hoarse voice is like a feather, teasing his already stretched heartstrings. Haotian, if you really hate me, then push me away. I promise, from now on, I will never bother you again. To hell with restraint. Go to hell with reason. Yan Haotian suddenly pulls Feng Haitang into his arms, fiercely lowering his head to kiss that slowly opening and closing little mouth. His fiery emotions and desires finally broke through his last line of defense and worries, allowing him to release his beast-like emotions without caring about anything else. The night is still very long. Sunlight sprinkles in from the window, falling on Feng Haitang's face. She slightly moves her body, opens her eyes, but suddenly lets out a low moan. So painful, her body feels like it was run over by something, aching everywhere. Feng Haitang slightly frowns, her brain is still a bit mushy, for a moment she can't remember what happened. Until, her gaze turns, falling not far away. On the bed close by, Yan Haotian's resolute face was sleeping soundly. One of his hands is under her neck, the two bodies, tightly pressed together. Her breathing suddenly stops. Her mind suddenly recalls the scene from last night. Feng Haitang's body instantly stiffens, red clouds flying everywhere. She. What did she do last night? She drugged Yan Haotian, then took the initiative to seduce him. What's done cannot be undone. Heavens, how could she do such a thing? The moment her reason returns, Feng Haitang's face is red as if it's about to drip water. She straightens up, but seeing those traces on her snow-white skin, she immediately becomes even more embarrassed. She quickly reaches out, wanting to touch it, but it hurts, and she can't help but fall down with a muffled groan. However, the expected pain on the bed doesn't come, she is embraced into a familiar wide embrace. Feng Haitang raises her head, meeting Yan Haotian's calm eyes, she can't help but panic. Haotian, I. She tightly grabs the bedding, biting her lower lip. Yesterday's matter was just an accident. If you really don't like me, I won't force you. Let's just pretend last night never happened. Just saying these words made her eyes wet with tears. Feng Haitang gritted her teeth and smiled bitterly in her heart. When did she become such a weak person? She took a deep breath and got up to put on her clothes. But before he could stand up, he was suddenly pulled back. Before she could say anything, his warm lips had already blocked her little mouth. The man's thick masculinity instantly swept through every part of her body. Only then did Yan Haotian let go of her red and swollen lips. Feng Haitang panted and looked at him with misty eyes. What do you mean? Yan Haotian tensed his body and slowly opened his mouth. A hoarse and muffled voice came from his mouth. Again and again, and again and again. Without a tongue, his words were really unpleasant to hear and could not be recognized. But as Feng Haitang listened, tears welled up in her eyes and she covered her mouth. She understood. She understood everything. This man was using his own way to tell her over and over again. Feng Haitang, I love you. Please, marry me. Chapter 683. Then, just as Yan Haotian's eyes lit up, she suddenly threw herself into his arms. I'm willing. Haotian, I've long said that in this lifetime, Feng Haitang, am only willing to be your bride. Yan Haotian held her tightly in his arms, and an incomparably gentle and sweet smile slowly blossomed on his cold and resolute face. The Hellfire Valley welcomed its first joyous event, Yan Haotian and Feng Haitang's wedding. The entire Hellflame Valley was in a festive mood, decorated with lanterns and colored banners. It was indescribably lively. At the wedding, the master of ceremonies, old Tao, was dressed like a red guangong. He stroked his beard and said loudly, "Bow to the heavens and earth." However, Yan Haotian and Feng Haitang did not move at all. They did not turn around and kowtow towards the door. Instead, he slowly kneels down in front of Mayan. Feng Haitang doesn't seem to care as she lifts the beaded phoenix coronet curtain, her eyes unblinkingly looking at Mayan. She gently opened her red lips and said, "Young miss, Haotian is unable to speak, so the words spoken by me today represent the intentions of both of us. What we have today is all thanks to Mississippi. We will never be able to repay your kindness for the rest of our lives." As Feng Haitang spoke, her eyes slowly became moist. If it weren't for Mayan, her Yan Haotian would have been trapped in the beast-fighting coliseum of the ghost city, a slave for life, unable to have a good end. If there was no June Mayan, after she couldn't find Yan Haotian in the end, she would return home depressed, and in the end, she would be randomly married off by her grandfather. Without June Mayan, she wouldn't have today's achievements, wouldn't have today's cultivation. When she was captured by Zhao Tianxiang, she might have already been humiliated and died a miserable death. Without June Mayan, it would be even more impossible for her and Yan Haotian to end up together. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "From now on, we don't believe in heaven and earth, nor do we believe in ghosts and gods. We only believe in you. In this life, as long as I, Feng Haitang, and Yan Haotian still have a breath left, we will follow you loyally, never regret, never betray." Feng Haitang slowly lowered her head and banged her head on the ground. Yan Haotian also lowered his head. Dong! 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 The two of them kowtowed 3 times in a solemn and respectful manner, as if they were making a vow for the rest of their lives. Thump! Ru Yan knelt down, and so did old Tao. Ink Camp, Grand Void Camp, Heavenly Secret Camp, Longevity Camp, inside and outside the hall, people knelt down one after another. Everyone looks at Mayan with an expression full of worship, gratitude, and faith. "We don't believe in heaven and earth, nor do we believe in ghosts and gods. We only believe in you. I will follow you faithfully for the rest of my life, never regret, never betray you." Mu Yan presses her temples, feeling a bit of a headache. What were Yan Haotian and Feng Haitang doing? Why did they have to be so emotional on such a joyous occasion? "That's enough, all of you," she said helplessly. "Get up, sit down obediently and go back to the wedding." If anyone says another word or disobeys orders, she raised the corner of her mouth, and her smile was cold and evil. "Do you want to taste the nightmare dream of floating life? I guarantee that I'll make you feel like dying, and I'll also improve your cultivation." Hearing this, the faces of the people kneeling on the ground changed, and they ran away faster than rabbits. What a joke! Was the nightmare of floating like a dream something that a human could endure? Although surviving the nightmare dream was equivalent to breaking through the bottleneck in his heart, it would be very beneficial for his future tribulations. Chapter 684. Even someone as persevering as Bai Chen was drenched in cold sweat after waking up from the nightmare dream. His face was filled with panic and he was on the verge of collapsing. Not to mention them. Everyone scattered like birds and beasts, and the wedding continued. Ghastly Flame Valley regained its cheerful atmosphere. She saw that the bunch of rascals had gone to Yan Haotian's bridal chamber to make trouble for the bride and groom. Even Xiao Bao, who was usually so cool that he didn't look like a child, was egged on by the crowd to join in the fun. Mu Yan recalls the innocent expression on Xiao Bao's face that belongs to a real child, and she feels a burst of sour joy in her heart. In fact, Xiao Bao was really lonely during the 4 years he lived with her in the mountains. In his entire world, there was only her, his mother. Until they left Nameless Mountain, Xiao Bao had the fat rabbit, had Lu Beiyu, had the ink camp, and then afterwards, had Hellflame Valley. Then, his face started to show more and more innocent expressions that a child should have. Little Treasure was getting happier and happier by the day. But, the smile on Mayan's face disappears. However, Xiaobao could not stay in this world for long. Bailey Inlo's words were still vivid in his mind. In the Yenwu continent, where there's no spiritual energy, an immortal spirit body can't live past the age of 10. Therefore, she was determined to help Xiaobao break through the Khanate realm, temper his body and soul, and ascend to the cultivation continent. But in that case, what should the people in Hellflame Valley do? The Yenwu continent has existed for so many years, and for tens of thousands of years, the number of people who could reach the peak of the pre-celestial stage can already be counted on one's fingers. Not to mention that he had passed the lightning tribulation and successfully tempered his body and soul. Even if she uses her Shen musician skills to help Bai Chen, Yan Haotian, and Ru Yan successfully advance, what about the others? Could it be that she had no qualms about leaving behind these people who believed in her and leaving on her own? In fact, when she first established the Ink Camp and the Tianji unit, it was purely for revenge against Gong Qinshue and Jian Feng. She even set a time limit of 5 years with Yan Haotian and the people of the Ink Camp. Within 5 years, when she had her revenge, she would set these people free. She would also leave this world with Xiaobao. When did she change her mind? She slowly treated these people as family, not just subordinates. At the thought of abandoning her family, her heart felt empty and depressed. Just as he was deep in thought, his body suddenly soared into the sky. Then, she fell into a tight embrace. The man's domineering aura assaulted her senses. It was accompanied by a deep and magnetic voice. "What are you thinking about? Ben Jun doesn't like that kind of expression on your face." With the accumulated depression and helpless sorrow, Di Mingju doesn't want to see such a Mayan. His Yan, his woman, should be wantonly and ostentatious, and be properly pampered in his arms. Who bullied you? Ben Jun will kill her for you. Mayan's heart was originally filled with grief, but hearing Jun Shangdaren's bandit-like words, she couldn't help but laugh out loud. This guy Di Mingju, isn't it because he's been with the Ink Camp for too long that he's become more and more uninhibited? But for some reason, this unreasonable, domineering, and bandit aura ignited hope in her heart. Perhaps, this overbearing fellow really had a way to deal with it. Mu Yan tells her what's on her mind. Di Mingju faintly knits his brows, then says unconcernedly, "If you can't bear to, then just bring them along to the Xiuzhen continent." Chapter 685. Do you think that it's that easy for the mortals of the Yenwu continent to enter the Xiuzhen continent? Don't even talk about whether or not they can really step into the pre-celestial Great Circle and trigger the thunder tribulation of forging the body and training the soul. Just the 9 heavenly thunders alone, for thousands of years, there are only a few that can pass through it. Otherwise, the previous Mu Yan wouldn't have taken the elixir that Gong Qinshue gave her before the tribulation to increase her odds of success. In the end, she was schemed against by Gong Qinshue. Di Mingju clasps her chin and gently bites her pink lips. What if Ben Jun can find a way for you? How will you repay Ben Jun? Mu Yan's mind is thrown into confusion by his provocative actions, and her voice isn't very steady. How do you want to repay me? Di Mingju slowly moves closer to her ear, his voice unreasonably hoarse. How about we cook the uncooked rice? Mu Yan, scoundrel, can't you forget this joke? Before Mu Yan can get angry, Di Mingju carries her in a flash, and they've already entered the space. In the tower, Di Mingju narrows his eyes and looks at the top of the tower for a while. He suddenly reaches out and grabs the air. Immediately, a book flies down from the sky and lands in front of Mu Yan. Regarding this scene, Mu Yan was already used to it. Ever since he found out that she has a portable space and a treasure trove, this guy Di Mingju often comes to her place and takes books without asking. Di Mingju also said that there's a restriction placed on this treasure trove. Only when her cultivation reaches a certain level, would she be able to flip through all the books at will. Mu Yan looks at him suspiciously, and opens the book in her hand. This book is very thin, and there are only 4 words written on the cover, Mortal Spirit Sculpting. And in the entire book, there's only one Dan recipe, Spirit Sculpting Pill. Mu Yan's eyes brighten at once. The Spirit Sculpting Pill, written in this book, is simply tailor-made for her. Because the effect of this Spirit Sculpting Pill is to reshape the spiritual root of any mortal without aptitude. Although the quality of the spiritual root that's reshaped wouldn't be high, the best it could be is a mixture of 3 spiritual roots. However, the herbs needed to refine the Spirit Sculpting Pill are all extremely rare and precious. Quite a few of them can't even be found in the Yanwu continent. The refining method was extremely complicated and trivial. It would not be an exaggeration to say that it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Ordinary people wouldn't go to such great lengths to create a low-grade cultivator with 3 spiritual roots. But to Mu Yan, these problems were not that big of a deal. This was because she had all those precious herbs, such as vermilion flame grass, fire lotus seed, crimson gold flower. With the help of the ghost city, it could be said that 99% of the herbs in the entire Yanwu continent have been gathered by her in Hellfire Valley. Although she doesn't have the spirit medicines that only grow in the Shuzhen continent, such as the water cloud fruit and the sandwood root, Di Mingju can help her get them. Refining the spirit molding pill was complicated and difficult for others, but she had the cloud-forming skill, so she had a 100% success rate. So now, the only thing left is the Jade Dragon Saliva. I don't have it on hand. The Jade Dragon Saliva was not a medicinal herb, but the bile of a high-tier exotic beast, the Jade Dragon Snake. And this kind of Jade Dragon Snake only exists in the deepest part of the Wuwang Mountains. Mu Yan holds the Mortal Spirit Sculpting book in her hands, and raises her head to look at Di Mingju. Her heart surges with an indescribable emotion. Chapter 686. The reason for that was because he already knew that Chu Feng was unwilling to part with the people from Netherflame Valley, and wanted to bring all of them with him. Because he was always thinking about her and thinking about her, he helped her find the water cloud fruit, sandwood root, and other elixirs that could only be found in the cultivation continent. Di Mingju slowly wraps his arms around her waist. He lowers his head and moves closer to her, pressing his forehead against hers, smelling her breath. Are you touched? Then, fulfill the conditions that you just promised Ben Jun. That was rustling, heavy, and soft, with a seductive charm. Mayin's brain was a mess and her whole body went soft. What conditions? Of course. The man lowered his head and planted a gentle and intoxicating kiss on her delicate, snow-white collarbone. Cook the rice. Mu Yan. She pushed the man away, but she couldn't push him away. Instead, he hugged her even tighter. Mu Yan flew into a rage out of humiliation and said, "Don't talk nonsense, when did I promise you?" Di Mingju turns his wrist, and the bottle of draft that he snatched last time appears in his palm. He says with an evil smile, "Yen Yen, if Ben Jun remembers correctly, you taught Feng Haitang to use this drug, didn't you also use it on me back then?" Mu Yan's eyelids twitched as the memory of that night from a long time ago suddenly appeared in her mind. At that time, he learned that Di Mingju was bullying the weak, bullying Xiao Bao, so he wanted to teach him a lesson. She didn't want to think about the result at all. How is this possible? Mu Yan feigned ignorance. You must have remembered wrongly. I would never do something as tasteless as drugging someone. Di Mingju reaches out and hooks his arm around her slender waist, grabbing the little lass who wants to escape and imprisoning her in his arms. Is that so? Did I really remember wrongly? He says with a smile that's not a smile. Actually, Ben Jun wanted to tell Yen Yen that as long as you want to, you don't need to use these things. He stuffs the draft in his hand into Mayan's bosom. His voice became deeper and deeper. As long as you say the word, I am naturally willing to serve you. I don't need any medicine at all, because to me, Yen Yen, you are the strongest medicine. As soon as her voice falls, Mayan's lips are abruptly kissed. His broad palms held her tightly in his embrace, his fiery gaze roaming about. Mu Yan's face is flushed and her heart is beating rapidly. It's as if all the strength in her body has been sucked away. She finds that she is increasingly unable to push Di Mingju away. It was getting harder and harder to resist this man's fiery emotions. Especially when this man used that seductive face to look at her, using that kind of voice that could make the ear pregnant to whisper softly in her ear. Mu Yan thinks that in this world, there isn't a woman who can resist the allure of an evildoer like Di Mingju. After the kiss ended, the passion between the two did not extinguish. Instead, it was as if dry firewood had been added, burning even more intensely. Di Mingju picks Mayan up and leaves the space. His eyes were crimson as he stared at Mu Yan, as if he was staring at his most beloved prey. He wanted to swallow it immediately. But his movements are still very gentle as he slowly places Mayan on the bed. Just then, Mother, I'm back. The door was pushed open with a bang, and Xiao Bao's small figure rushed in like a small cannonball. Mayan, who had been confused by Di Mingju's teasing, instantly sobers up. She abruptly pushes away Di Mingju, who wants to press down on her. Xiao Bao looks at the two people, and immediately glares at Di Mingju. Mother, did this lecher bully you again? Chapter 687. It was really bullying, but it was not the kind of bullying that his son understood. Mu Yan guiltily pushes aside the sullen Di Mingju, and takes Xiao Bao into her arms. Baby, did you have fun today? Xiao Bao's little face was flushed and his blue eyes were watery. He tried his best to keep a straight face as he nodded. Mother, it's the bridal chamber. It's fun. Mu Yan lovingly combed his disheveled hair and softly said, and Nyangqin promises that the ghastly Flame Valley will become more and more fun in the future. Xiao Bao will also have a lot of people to accompany him, and he will become happier and happier. Little Treasure's brows curved up slightly as he nodded repeatedly, his face filled with happiness. But at the side, Di Mingju's good time is once again interrupted by this little guy. His complexion is already so black that it could drip water. Fun. He said darkly, have you completed the cultivation task that I assigned to you? Whether it's for Mayan, or Di Mingju's special feelings towards Xiao Bao. He had to ensure that Xiao Bao could cultivate as soon as possible and enter the cultivation world. Because only when the mother and son ascend as soon as possible, can he truly be together with Mu Yan for a long time. And Mayan has long since reached the peak of the pre-celestial stage, even stepping into the pre-celestial full circle. He was only one step away from tempering his body and soul, transcending tribulation, and ascending. Therefore, after reaching the peak of the pre-celestial realm, Mu Yan stopped cultivating. Because if she wanted to leave, then she had to take little Bao with her. Perhaps Mu Yan only needs to leave the spirit-molding pill for the people of the Nether Flame Valley. However, she would never part with Xiao Bao. Di Mingju wants Mayan to ascend as soon as possible, so he can only let Xiao Bao enter the pre-celestial Great Circle as soon as possible. So, he'd set up a series of hellish cultivation assignments for little Bao during this period of time. That kind of cultivation intensity and terrifying mission, even Mu Yan, who had always been a person who raised Xiao Bao, couldn't help but feel a burst of heartache. In the end, before she could raise an objection, Di Mingju forcibly rebutted her with a sentence of, "A doting mother leads to spoiled children." But right now, Di Mingju feels that this brat's cultivation intensity is still not enough. Otherwise, why would she have so much time to ruin his plans time and time again? However, this little fellow was completely unafraid of his pressure and anger. The Jun Shang Darren, who can normally make the entire polar domain tremble when he gets angry in the Shushan continent. But all she got in return was Xiaobao's disdainful sidelong glare. She hugged Mu Yen, and the mother and son intimately provoked her. He raised his little face, a proud expression on his face. 36 cycles of spirit refinement and 81 cycles of qi circulation. Xiaobao has long since completed them. Mu Yan immediately kissed his little face and praised, "Little Bao is great. In order to reward the treasure, let's go eat a big meal tonight." She had gone too far at the wedding just now, and she hadn't had her fill yet. Xiao Bao immediately turns his head to look at Di Mingju, his big sparkling blue eyes full of expectation. "I want to eat steamed bear's paw, steamed deer's tail, roasted duck, roasted chicken." Mayan also looks at Di Mingju, a pair of peach blossom eyes shimmering, incomparably charming. "I want to eat jade rabbit cabbage, ice flower snow lotus." Both mother and son's eyes sparkled, filled with anticipation. Even the fat rabbit in Xiao Bao's arms couldn't help but swallow its saliva. Although the devil was scary, the food he made was really delicious. It also wanted to try it again. Di Mingju simply found it both funny and annoying. He reaches out and pinches the two similar faces, snappily saying, "If you want to eat, then come and help." Chapter 688. However, in the dining hall, Mayan fawned and worshipped him in the kitchen, eating the food he made and praising him endlessly. Jun Shangdaran couldn't help but be happy. What's so great about washing hands and making soup? It won't damage his dignity as the emperor of the polar domain at all. His woman, of course, he will take good care of her. As for other people, he would like to see who dares to talk about it. Ing Mei face-bombed, "Jun Shang, as long as you are happy." Jingqing country, Feng family. Father Feng and Mother Feng, who looked haggard, were brought over. An old man sitting at the head, Feng Wudi, the head of the Feng family, said in a deep voice, "After being locked up for so many days, have you calmed down? How do you want us to calm down?" Mother Feng's lips were cracked, her voice was hoarse, but she roared loudly, "Haitang is our daughter, the daughter I gave birth to after 10 months of pregnancy, but you actually gave her to Zhao Tianxiang, that animal, for the benefit of the Feng family. How can you be so ruthless?" Before Feng Wudi spoke, Fang Yicheng next to him had already slowly opened his mouth. "Aunt Feng's words are wrong. Since Haitang is the daughter of the Feng family and enjoys the benefits brought to her by the eldest daughter of the Feng family, she naturally has the obligation to contribute to the family." He gently waved the folding fan in his hand, and his words were dignified. What's more, old Master Feng did not mistreat Haitang. She married Zhao Tianxiang and became the prince consort of Weiyuan General's mansion, not like those shady women who casually followed Zhao Tianxiang as a concubine. Such an honor is something that many people can't ask for. How can you be so ungrateful and speak ill of others? You are simply turning black and white upside down. Mother Feng trembled with anger. "I can only blame myself for not seeing you clearly before. I even wanted Haitang to marry you. It's all my fault, it's all my fault." Mother Feng said and couldn't help crying. "If I had known, I might as well let that girl do as she wished and let her marry the boy of the Yen family. It's all my fault for harming Haitang, boo-hoo." Feng Wudi frowned in disgust and looked at Father Feng. "Cheng Yuan, what do you say? You are the legitimate son that I have carefully nurtured. In the future, the Feng clan's business will be inherited by you. You should know better than anyone that giving Haitang to Zhao Tianxiang will bring great benefits to the Feng clan. In the end, Haitang is only a little girl. She is not the legitimate child of the Feng clan. Feng Wuti stared at Father Feng and said word by word, Cheng Yuan, I'm sure your choice won't disappoint me, right? Father Wind was visibly struggling. Then, he slowly relaxed his expression. Father, I have never dared to disobey you since I was young. Hearing this, Feng Wuti showed a satisfied expression. He knew this son of his best. He had been obedient and filial since he was young, and had never dared to disobey his orders. Therefore, when the Yan family declined, even though Yan Haotian's father was his good friend. However, Feng Wuti's order made him not dare to help. Later, Feng Wuti asked him to break off the engagement between Feng Haitang and Yan Haotian, and he did so. This time, he naturally did not dare to disobey her. However, what Papa Feng said next made Feng Wuti's expression change. Chapter 689. I thought that since Haitang is your granddaughter, you would at least have some affection for her. But I didn't expect you to be so cruel. For the sake of the family, you actually gave Haitang to that scum, Zhao Tianxiang. Do you know how many women have died in his hands all these years? Do you want my Haitang, my precious daughter, to end up like that? No, I won't accept it. Papa Feng stood up and rushed out the door. I'm going to bring my Haitang back now. Yes, yes. We're going to bring Haitang back now. Mother Feng shouted and rushed out with Papa Feng. Feng Yicheng sneered. Stop them. The guards of the Feng residence immediately rushed over and detained Papa Feng and Mother Feng. Papa Feng roared, Feng Yicheng, this is the Feng residence. What right do you have to be so arrogant? Let me go. Feng Yicheng waved his fan and said matter-of-factly, I've already sworn loyalty to old Master Feng. His wishes are my wishes, and his thoughts are my orders. You don't know what's good for you and want to disregard the Feng residence's benefits and safety. Of course I have to have you detained. Feng Wuti's expression was extremely gloomy. Feng Chengyuan, you really disappoint me. Guards, lock them up in a cell and don't let them eat for 3 days. Let them out when you've thought it through. Father. Father. How can you do this? Haitang is your granddaughter. Let me go. Let me go. I want to save my daughter, let me go. Feng Yicheng slowly walked to Papa Feng and Mother Feng and sneered. Even if you save Haitang now, what can you do? I'm afraid her body has already been tainted by Zhao Tianxiang. Oh, maybe she's missing an arm or a leg. We don't even know if her body is complete or not. What's the use of bringing such a broken flower back? Ah. Shut up. Shut up. My Haitang won't. Mother Feng roared hysterically, her voice shrill and crazy. Feng Yicheng looked at her like a crazy shrew and laughed heartily. However, just as he straightened up, he saw the scene in front of him, and his laughter immediately stopped. Then, a look of disbelief appeared on his face. Not far away, at the gate of the Feng clan, a group of people swaggered in. They were led by a man and a woman who were so beautiful that they didn't seem like mortals, and the woman was holding on to a handsome little boy. But Feng Yicheng's eyes were unconsciously attracted to the people behind the 3 people. A beautiful woman dressed in red walked over leisurely beside the scar-faced tough man. But who else could this red-clothed woman be other than Feng Haitang, whom he had given to Zhao Tianxiang long ago? You, how could you? Why would Feng Haitang and Yan Haotian appear here? Mu Yan and Di Mingju's trio stop and make way. When Feng Haitang saw Father Feng and Mother Feng in such a sorry state, tears welled up in her eyes and she pounced on them. Father! Mother! My unfilial daughter Hai Tang is back. Father Feng and Mother Feng were dumbfounded. They stared blankly at them as Hai Tang ran over, unable to react. Chapter 690. Hai Tang. My Hai Tang, is that really you? You're fine, you're back. Mother isn't dreaming, right? Mother, it's me. Your Hai Tang is back. Feng Hai Tang held Mother Feng's hand and pressed it against her face. Choking, she said, I'm sorry, Father, Mother, I've made you worry. Father Feng snapped out of his daze and stammered, but, they said that Xiao Tianxiang. Feng Hai Tang wiped away her tears and glanced sharply at the stiff Feng Yicheng. She said in a deep voice, I was indeed plotted against by Feng Yicheng, this heartless beast, and was sent to Xiao Tianxiang. But before Xiao Tianxiang could do anything to me, Hao Tian and Miss found me and saved me. Now I. Speaking up to this point, her face turned slightly red, and she seemed to be acting like a little girl. Now, I'm already married to Hao Tian. In 3 days, I brought him back, to see you. Hao Tian? Which Hao Tian? Father Feng paused. Then, Yan Hao Tian walked up and stood beside Feng Hai Tang, gently hugging her. Only a blind person could see the love he had for Feng Hai Tang in his eyes. Father Feng's gaze fell on Yan Hao Tian's face. Suddenly, he looked shocked. Hao Tian. Yan Hao Tian, you're the kid from the Yan family. You're still alive. You're really alive. Yan Hao Tian nodded slightly and gestured. Feng Hai Tang explained, Hao Tian is injured and can't speak, but I've decided to be with him and I'm his wife now. Father, Mother, I hope you can bless me and Hao Tian together. Are you kidding me? Feng Wudi's angry voice rang out. What right does a mute have to be the son-in-law of the Feng family? Dream on. When those turbid eyes looked at Yan Hao Tian, they were filled with disgust and contempt. Then, he glared at Feng Hai Tang. Hai Tang, what's wrong with you? You should be the consort of the Weiyuan general's residence, but you're with this useless cripple. I order you, now. Immediately. Go back to the Weiyuan general's residence and apologize to Prince Xiao. These words could be said to be extremely vicious. The people from the Ying camp who had followed them in, hearing their boss being humiliated like this, each and every one of them goes mad with anger. How he wished he could tear this old man apart. However, this man was their sister-in-law's grandfather. Even if he was about to explode, he couldn't say it out loud. But they can't say it, and Mu Yen doesn't care. She smiled sweetly and said indifferently, General Weiyuan is dead. General Weiyuan's residence has been completely erased from the world. Old Master Feng, where do you want Hai Tang to go? If you really miss General Weiyuan so much, why don't I send you to see him? Pfft. Ru Yan couldn't help but laugh. When the people from the Ying camp see that Mayan has opened her mouth, they immediately become unbridled, coming out with all sorts of presumptuous words. Exactly. Old fart, if you want to curry favor with General Weiyuan so much, why don't we send you down and you can go to the underworld and curry favor with him yourself? Who does that Xiao Tianxiang think he is? It was a pile of shit. How dare you compare yourself to our boss? Old man Feng, are you blind? Chapter 691. Old man Feng has never suffered such humiliation. He's so angry that he's blowing his beard and glaring, unable to control his emotions. You, who the hell are you? Do you know where this is? How dare you come to my Feng family and behave atrociously? Someone, come and take down this group of madmen for me, including that Yan Hao Tian. I'd like to see who can walk out of the Feng mansion alive today. Feng Haitang's face suddenly sinks. Grandfather, are you really going to be so ruthless? Don't call me grandfather. Feng Wuti roars, I don't have a shameless granddaughter like you. Good. Feng Haitang sneers, I also don't want to have such a ruthless grandfather like you. Hearing that, the people of the ink camp immediately rubbed their fists. Boss, did you hear that? Sister-in-law doesn't recognize this grandfather, can we start now? Yan Haotian looks at Feng Haitang. This is Haitang's home, how to choose is up to Haitang herself. Feng Haitang looks at Mu Yan, there's a little hesitation in her eyes. Mu Yan smiles faintly and says, instead of watching the roots and leaves rot little by little, it's better to uproot it and replant it into what you want. Or do you want the other people of the Feng family to live forever in the hands of such a heartless old man who can sacrifice everyone for his own benefit? Following Mu Yan's words, the little hesitation on Feng Haitang's face fades away, becoming extremely firm. Father Feng and Mother Feng look at her nervously and blankly. Haitang, you. Feng Haitang smiles at them. Father, Mother, don't worry, things will be over soon. Saying that, she waves her hand and shouts in a deep voice, capture Feng Wuti, clean up the Feng mansion, if you encounter any resistance, kill without mercy. Ew. Understood, sister-in-law. Hearing that, the people of the ink camp immediately cry out and excitedly rush out. Feng Yicheng's complexion is ashen. Taking advantage of the chaos, he quietly wants to slip away. However, before he could reach the door, he sees a tower-like figure standing in front of him, coldly looking at him. Yan Haotian. Feng Yicheng's heart tightens, and he promptly makes a decision. Before the Yan family fell, Yan Haotian's cultivation was only at Earth stage, how powerful could he be now? However, Yan Haotian quickly used reality to tell him how powerful he was now. Feng Yicheng was beaten to death by Yan Haotian's fists. In the end, his shattered organs spurted out from his mouth. All the bones in his body were broken. All the pain he wanted to inflict on others was returned to him 10 times, 100 times over. When Feng Yicheng breathed his last, Yan Haotian stood up with red eyes and walked back to Feng Haitang's side. It was this person who had almost caused Haitang to be defiled by a beast and had almost caused them to be separated by life and death. Yan Haotian had long wanted to dismember this beast into 1,000 pieces. Now, he had finally done it. And the ink camp's attack also comes to an end. Feng Wuti was tied up and thrown to the ground. As for the guards of the Feng clan, they were either dead or surrendered. Feng Wuti glared at Feng Haitang and roared hysterically, evil woman, how dare you? How dare you disobey me? You bitch, you'll die a horrible death. Father Feng and Mother Feng were originally filled with guilt and unease about this turn of events. Chapter 692. Father Feng sighed softly, as if he had aged 10 years. Haitang, she's your grandfather after all. You should at least not harm her life. Feng Haitang chuckled, don't worry, he is heartless, but I won't kill him. For the rest of his life, I will imprison him and provide him with good food and drink until he dies of old age. Hearing Feng Haitang's promise, Father Feng and Mother Feng heaved a sigh of relief. Feng Wuti cursed and struggled with all his might. Unfortunately, no one cared about him anymore. They directly took him away. At this moment, the Wind Mansion had completely changed owners. With Haitang's support, Father Feng became the master of the Feng family. Any member of the Feng Mansion who wants to rebel, after seeing the formidable force of those animals from the ink camp, all of them bow their heads in submission. When Father Feng and Mother Feng found out that it was Mu Yan who saved Yan Haotian and their daughter, and even helped their daughter break through to the heaven stage, they were extremely grateful to her. When she found out that Mu Yan is that famous enchantress of medicine today, she was even more glad that her daughter was able to meet her and follow her. After settling the matter of the Feng family, Mayan gets up and heads towards the Wuwang Mountains at the border of Jingqing country and Huangyao country. It was said that this was the place where the jade dragon snake most often appeared. The depths of the Wuwang Mountains can be said to be the most dangerous place in the entire Yanwu continent. Even the fat rabbit would be powerless when faced with countless strange beasts. Di Mingju can protect Mayan and Xiao Bao, but he can't interfere in the Yanwu continent's affairs at will. He can't protect the others. Therefore, Mayan only brought 2 or 3 elites from the Tai Su camp and the Ying camp to the Wuwang Mountains this time. As for Feng Haitang and Yan Haotian, they were newcomers, so they naturally had to stay at the Feng clan for a few days. At the gate of the Feng residence, there were a few handsome horses. They were about to set off for the Wuwang Mountains. Seeing these horses, Di Mingju raises an eyebrow. Why aren't they carriages? Hearing the man's question, Mu Yan fiercely glares at him. This fellow still had the nerve to say that. If it weren't for him, would she have needed to abandon the comfortable carriage and choose to ride a horse? One must know that Mayan likes to enjoy herself very much. If she could live a comfortable life, she definitely wouldn't want to work hard. But on the way to the Feng mansion, this guy Di Mingju borrowed the cover of the carriage, plus Xiao Bao has been cultivating in the space. Basically, nothing was taboo. Thinking of the scenes in the narrow carriage, Mayan can't help but feel her face and ears burn. She snappily said, "We're going to look for herbs, not for an outing. Why would we take a carriage? If Jun Shangdaran doesn't want to ride a horse, then that's fine. You don't have to go." Mu Yan's tone was so bad that the Nether Fire Army thought that Di Mingju would definitely be angry. Immediately, all of them kept quiet out of fear. But who would have thought that not only is Di Mingju not angry, he even reveals an evil smile. His blazing gaze sweeps over Mayan, as if to say, Ben Jun knows that Yan Yan is angry out of humiliation, but Ben Jun won't bother with you. Mayan is infuriated. She leaped onto the horse's back and thought to herself, now that there's no carriage, I don't believe that a lecher like you can still act like a hooligan in public. The little girl of the Grand Virtual Camp, Shui Yan, brings the best horse in front of Di Mingju. Jun Shang, this is the horse prepared for you. The little girl glanced at Mayan, and couldn't help but secretly add, son-in-law, this horse is a pair with Mrs. Horse. Chapter 693. Her subordinates were getting more and more talkative. In the past, when she saw Di Mingju, wasn't it just like a mouse seeing a cat? She was so scared that she couldn't wait to hide as far away as possible. But now, they were calling him son-in-law. Di Mingju glances at the horse, and casually pulls it in his hand. Just when everyone thought that he would mount the horse, he suddenly took a few steps forward, came to Mu Yan's side, and then jumped up. She could feel the man's warm and strong body pressing against her, as well as the iron-like arm around her waist. Mu Yan is simply dumbfounded. How could there be such a shameless man in this world? She looks over in embarrassment and annoyance. Di Mingju, what are you doing? Get down here. Di Mingju leans close to her ear and whispers, of course it's according to Madame's wishes, to ride to Wuwang Mountain Range. In fact, it doesn't matter if we don't use a carriage. Your husband prefers this method. Mu Yan only feels that everyone's eyes are focused on her. This included Father Feng and Mother Feng, as well as Yan Haotian and Feng Haitang, who had come out to send them off. Her face was on fire, and she used her profound qi to push him down. Unfortunately, the man behind her didn't move at all. Instead, he hugged her even tighter. A deep and husky voice rings in her ears, Yan Yan, do you think that Ben Jun would be afraid of being watched? Ben Jun can't wait for the whole world to know that you belong to Ben Jun, and only to me. He could hear the friendly laughter of the Nether Fire Army. There were also envious gazes looking at the two of them. Even Shui Yan and the other girls were whispering to each other. I was wondering why Miss didn't want to ride in the carriage. It turns out that you want to ride with the son-in-law. Miss and son-in-law sitting together like this, it's like they're an immortal couple. I finally understand what it means to only envy mandarin ducks and not immortals. Mu Yan, she wished she could go back to 2 hours ago and strangle the person who came up with this stupid idea. How could she overestimate Di Mingju's moral integrity? Miss, son-in-law, the tea house in front is the last rest stop before entering the Wuwang mountain range. Should we go in and eat something? Little girl Shui Yan wiped the sweat from her forehead and asked. In the deepest part of the Wuwang mountain range, the weather became abnormally hot. It was so hot that ordinary people couldn't bear it at all. This was also the reason why the depths of the Wuwang mountain range were said to be dangerous. Apart from the fact that the exotic beasts inside were very powerful and densely packed together, there were many of them. It was also because the closer one got to the center of the Wuwang mountains, the harsher the environment became. This time, Mayan has only brought 2 people, the little girl Shui Yan from the Grand Void camp, and Guan Hu from the Ink camp. Both of their talents were extremely high in the Nether Flame army and they had already advanced to the heaven rank some time ago. After Yan Haotian, the 4 leaders, and Changyu, they were the only 2 people in the Netherflame Valley who had reached heaven stage. Mu Yan brought them along mainly to let them consolidate their heaven stage cultivation in actual combat. As for why they didn't bring Changyu, that's naturally because the jealous and narrow-minded Jun Shang Darren wouldn't allow it. But even though their cultivation had already reached the heaven stage, Shui Yan and Guan Hu were still somewhat unable to bear the heat. On the contrary, it's Mu Yan and Di Mingju. Even in such a hot environment, the 2 of them were still stuck together, but they felt refreshed, not even a drop of sweat. Hearing Shui Yan's question, Mu Yan immediately said, "All right, let's rest in front for a while." Chapter 694. Many practitioners who enter the mountains to gain experience will stay here to rest, and also conduct transactions here. There are even people from the Ghost City who specially stay here, just to purchase the rare treasures from the Wuwang Mountains. As soon as she enters the tea house, Mayan feels a wild and unrestrained evil aura hitting her in the face. The people who rest here are all going to enter the Wuwang Mountains. Which one of them doesn't have extraordinary strength and ferocious bravery? Only then would they dare to appear here. And in this tea house, there's another scenery. It's those prostitutes who wear unusually revealing clothes. The skin of these women is darker than that of ordinary women, a healthy wheat color. She was wearing very little clothes. They were either transparent or only covered the important parts of her body, fully displaying her exquisite and graceful figure. They are either teasing and joking with those strong men, or snuggling into the arms of powerful practitioners, wrapping around their bodies like water snakes, doing their utmost to flirt. As soon as Mayan enters, she sees this bloody and erotic scene, and can't help but whistle. This tea house outside the Wuwang Mountains is really an interesting place. The entrance of the 3 quickly attracts the attention of other people. Whether it's men or women, they all cast their gazes towards the 4 people, and then each and every one of their eyes shine like wolves. What a handsome gongzi! The fastest to react are the women who are used to doing the flesh trade. When they see Di Mingju's incomparably handsome countenance, each and every one of them is itching unbearably, wishing that they could immediately pounce on him. I don't know if Gongzi needs this servant to serve him. This servant doesn't need gold coins, no, even if you want this servant to pay for it. Saying that, the nearest person has already pounced on him. That impatient and unrestrained appearance simply makes people gasp in amazement. Ingmei is dumbfounded, she even forgets to protect her own master. She never thought that the mortals of the Yanwu continent would actually be so valiant, even daring to take liberties with their Jun Shang. Even in the Shushin continent above the 9th heaven, there has never been a woman who dared to act rashly in front of Jun Shang. On the contrary, the little girl Shui Yan is the first to react. Like a little wolf dog protecting its master, she rushes out and opens her arms to block, impudent. This is my family's son-in-law. My family's son-in-law isn't someone that just any woman can think of, you all better behave yourself. When the 2 or 3 women hear this, their eyes unconsciously wander over Mu Yan's face. Seeing that she was as beautiful as snow, he immediately felt a little resentful. But her gaze lingers on Di Mingju's perfect face and figure with some reluctance. She unwillingly asks Mayan, how about renting your man to us for a day? You can name the price. Mu Yan couldn't hold it in any longer and burst out laughing. She laughed so hard that she rocked back and forth and almost couldn't stand steadily. Di Mingju's face is already as black as charcoal. The cold air emitting from his body makes those prostitutes, who are used to seeing great storms and great waves, to reveal an aghast expression. Get lost. He spat out coldly. The entire tea house fell silent, and everyone couldn't help but shiver. Even those ferocious-looking burly men, who were originally drooling with greed when they saw Mu Yan, were all as silent as cicadas out of fear under this intimidation, not daring to move even an inch from their positions. In the tea house, only Mu Yan's clear and unbridled laughter reverberates. Chapter 695. This woman has no conscience. Seeing him being coveted by another woman, she's not even the slightest bit jealous. Thinking of this, Di Mingju's face darkens a bit, and he suddenly tightens his grip on Mayan. Does that mean that in Mayan's heart, she doesn't like him at all? Mayan suddenly feels her waist tighten. Di Mingju's strength restraining her seems to be itching to break her waist. She frowns and looks up, about to speak. Suddenly, an arrogant female voice comes from the 2nd floor of the tea house. This man, this princess wants him. As soon as the voice falls, a yellow figure descends from the sky, landing in front of Mayan and the others. Following her were a few middle-aged men with extremely high cultivation bases. The woman who is speaking looks to be in her early 20s. She has a gorgeous appearance and a fiery figure. Although her clothes aren't as revealing as those prostitutes, they're still half-covered, stirring up wild and fanciful thoughts. As soon as they see her come out, the entire tea house immediately goes into an uproar. Oh, I didn't expect this little evil star to be here today. There's going to be a good show to watch. Being fancied by this Li Wan, this young couple is out of luck. Not necessarily. Look at that man, his pressure is so frightening. Maybe he doesn't even put this Li Wan, in his eyes. How could that be? Even if they're more powerful, they don't have any backing. How could they contend against a country's princess? The rising and falling sounds of discussion reach Mayan's ears, making her slightly narrow her eyes. Li Wan doesn't even look at her. Her greedy eyes look up and down at Di Mingju's face. Soon, her eyes reveal a determined look. Say your name. Li Wan raises her chin at Di Mingju and arrogantly says, this princess doesn't care if you came to the Wuwang Mountains to gain experience or to hunt for treasures. I guarantee that as long as you abandon this woman and follow this princess, from now on, you can have wind and rain as you wish. The people standing in front of her are silent, like a needle dropping. Guanhu, Shuiyan, and Yingmei are all fucking stupid. Is there something wrong with this woman? She could provoke anyone, but she actually provokes their Jun Shang/son-in-law. Is she tired of living? However, Li Wan feels that she has given a great advantage to the common people. As soon as she finishes speaking, she steps forward, wanting to pull Di Mingju. However, before her hand could touch Di Mingju, she finds that her hand is grasping empty air. The man who was originally very close to him had already walked past him and was leisurely walking forward. Mu Yan's hand is holding Di Mingju's wrist, pulling him forward. It was as if Li Wan'er was air, and she didn't even see his existence. Jun Shangdaran, who is being dragged, is unexpectedly very obedient. The coldness on his face fades away, and the corner of his mouth traces a faint smile. Li Wan'er can only watch helplessly as Mu Yan and Di Mingju completely ignore her, and directly walk over. Her whole face is distorted. "Stop right there!" Li Wan'er roared furiously. Unfortunately, no one paid any attention to her. This time, even Guanhu, Shuiyan, and the others were chatting and laughing as they walked over. It was as if she did not exist. Chapter 696. Mu Yan casually pushes her hand away and says unhurriedly, "I'm sorry, I only heard a dog barking just now. I didn't notice that you were calling me Poochie." Many people in the tea house could not help but laugh. This girl was so beautiful, but he didn't expect her words to be so poisonous. Weren't these words implying that Li Wan'er was a dog? Li Wan'er clearly understands the meaning behind Mu Yan's words, and her face suddenly turns sinister. "Slut, you dare to humiliate this princess." She screams and swings her hand towards Mayan's face. However, he was caught by Ying Mei midway and violently flung to the ground. Li Wan'er was dizzy from the fall. When she came back to her senses, she immediately roared at her subordinates behind her, "A bunch of trash, what are you waiting for? Why aren't you arresting all of them? Other than that man, it doesn't matter if the others are killed or maimed." In an instant, Li Wan'er's subordinates surrounded them so tightly that not even a drop of water could escape. The oppressive might of a Heaven's Limit expert was emitted, causing everyone in the tea house to shiver. Looking at Mu Yan and the others, their eyes were filled with pity. Li Wan'er crawled up from the ground, gritted her teeth and sneered, "Bitch, now you know who you've offended, right?" Mu Yan picks her ears, "Did I offend a person? I thought it was a bitch in heat." Pft, pft. This time, the people in the tea house burst into laughter. She actually called Li Wan'er a bitch. Was this girl tired of living? It should be known that in this area, Li Wan'er had always relied on her identity as the princess of the Huangyao nation to be a tyrant. Furthermore, she was extremely fond of men. As long as a man passed by this tea house, the princess would take a fancy to him and forcefully take him as her own. During this period, there were people who resisted. However, no matter how much he resisted, how could he resist the princess of a country? Therefore, most people could only choose to swallow their anger. Now that this young girl had humiliated Li Wan'er like this, her fate would probably be even more miserable than the previous people. But when they heard Li Wan'er being mercilessly humiliated, why did they feel so refreshed? Li Wan'er was really mad this time. "Good. Very good. Bitch, you've really angered me. I will let you know the consequences of offending this princess." With a wave of his hand, a group of heaven-grade warriors immediately approached Mu Yan and the others. Mu Yan nudges Di Mingju with her elbow, "You've provoked a debt of love, go and settle it yourself." But Di Mingju is unperturbed as he says, "I'm not going." Mu Yan glared at him. This guy usually hid his appearance, making it hard for people to see his true appearance. He didn't know what was wrong with him along the way, but he just had to reveal his true face. In the end, he had seduced the hearts of countless girls along the way and attracted a lot of rotten peach blossoms. This time, if it wasn't for his calamitous face, he wouldn't have provoked a fool like Li Wan'er. If he didn't deal with it, who would? Di Mingju gives her a meaningful look, faintly saying, "Yen Yen, someone is coveting your family's man, shouldn't you stand up to protect me, your husband?" "What fucking protection? You're the emperor of the immortal cultivation continent. Do you need someone to protect you?" Mu Yan almost laughs at Di Mingju's shameless words. Unfortunately, Di Mingju doesn't even give her time to think, and directly pushes her into the encirclement of those heaven-grade warriors. Ingmei is unperturbed. Chapter 697. But the practitioners in the tea house are in an uproar. What's wrong with this man? He looks powerful, but he's just an embroidered pillow and rotten straw bag. He actually let that delicate little girl face the enemy alone. Scum. Good-looking men, sure enough, they're all unreliable. Alas, what a pity for that little girl, she's going to end up with her head separated from her body at such a young age. However, these people's sighs and discussions have just begun. Over there, they hear a series of bangs, bangs. Soon after, everyone in the tea house is dumbstruck to find that Li Wanner's guards have fallen, more than 10 heaven-grade practitioners. They've only just started a conversation, and they've all fucking fallen. A large number of people can't help but rub their eyes and pinch their thighs, wanting to prove if it's true. Shui Yan is already holding her small face, her eyes full of worship. Miss is really too handsome. If Miss was a man, I would want to marry her. Before she could finish speaking, a cold air hits her in the face. Shui Yan immediately shivers, keeping quiet out of fear. Di Mingju's heart is even more stifled. Does it mean that he not only has to guard against men, but also women? Jun Mayan, this woman who doesn't let him have peace of mind. However, when that troublesome girl steps on the corpses on the ground, turns around and shows him a bright and beautiful smile. All the depression in Di Mingju's heart turns into deep love. Jun Shangdaran, are you satisfied now? Di Mingju grabs her hand and gently wipes away the blood that splashed on it. The words that come out of his mouth are very infuriating, and, in the future, remember to protect your husband like this, understand? Mayan rolls her eyes at him, then looks at Li Wanner. Li Wanner is scared silly at this time, her body shivering. Seeing Mayan looking at her, she immediately steps back in horror, her voice trembling as she says, You can't kill me. I'm the princess of Huangyao. If you kill me, my imperial father. Imperial father will not let you off. Mayan crouches down, looking at her with a smile that isn't a smile. It's not impossible for me to spare your life. Li Wanner's eyes brighten, thinking that Mayan is afraid of her identity as a princess. Unexpectedly, her next words were, however, I'm very annoyed by your barking beside my ear. It's impossible not to pay a price. How about this, you slap yourself 100 times, then crawl 3 times in this tea house while barking like a dog, and I'll spare your life. How about that? Li Wanner glared at her fiercely and screamed, Don't you dare, I'm a male. Mu Yen slowly raised the sword in his hand and pressed it against Li Wanner's neck. He chuckled, I also feel that this punishment is a little troublesome. Since it's like this, you can just go and die. As he finished speaking, he exerted force in his hand, and the ice-cold blade had already cut open the skin on Li Wanner's neck. Bright red beads of blood oozed out. No. No. Don't kill me. Looking into Mayan's pitch-black eyes without the slightest ripple, Li Wanner could only see calmness within them. At this moment, she finally realized that the woman in front of her would really kill her. She did not care about her identity as a princess at all. Thus, Li Wanner broke down, and even her feces and urine came out. I'm willing to accept the punishment, I'm willing. Woo woo woo. Please spare me. Mu Yen frowns in disgust and takes a few steps back. Chapter 698. Because she was afraid that Mu Yen would really kill her, every slap was very heavy. After 30 slaps, she fainted in fear and pain. Mayan sneers, with just this bit of ability, you still dare to come out and bully men and tyrannize women. This tea house has been turned into a foul atmosphere by Li Wanner, and the stench is overwhelming. Mu Yen and the others can't stay any longer. Just as she was about to leave, the people in the tea house began to defend her. Little girl, a man who doesn't protect you in times of crisis is unreliable. Don't be fooled by his good looks. That's right. Little girl, you're so powerful and as beautiful as a flower. Could it be that you're still afraid of not being able to find a good man? Ahem. Miss, my name is Gu Datong. I'm 28 years old this year, and I'm at the heaven rank. May I know your name? I fell in love with you at first sight. There was actually someone who recommended himself. The corner of Mu Yan's mouth twitches. Next to him, Di Mingju's complexion is ice cold, his eyes so cold that it's almost as if they're going to freeze this place. He didn't care what others thought of him. But if anyone wanted to covet Mayan, Ingmei shivers, knowing that his family's Jun Shang is really angry this time. Once the emperor was enraged, corpses would float for thousands of miles. What was wrong with this group of mortals? Why did he have to court death? However, just as Di Mingju is about to explode, suddenly, a clear and melodious voice rang out, suppressing all the voices in the tea house. What does it matter if he's reliable or not? It's fine as long as I'm reliable. Mayan casts a sidelong glance at everyone, her smile is charming and languid, but it also carries the spirit of disdainfully looking down on the world. What I want, I will snatch it myself. My man only needs to be responsible for being as beautiful as a flower. I like to spoil and spoil my man. What does it have to do with you idlers? Saying that, she pulls Di Mingju's hand and turns around to leave. Ingmei stood there in a daze, completely dumbfounded. Wait a minute. What did she just hear? Miss Jun is responsible for spoiling and spoiling Jun Shang, and Jun Shang is responsible for being as beautiful as a flower? Wait a minute. Was there something wrong with this? Jun Shang, didn't you come all the way from the Shushan continent to marry Miss Jun? Why do you feel that you are going to be married by Miss Jun? The point is, you're already being raised by someone, so why are you still smiling so happily, Jun Shang? Shui Yan and Guan who look at Mu Yan's domineering back as she pulls Di Mingju away, their hearts full of worship. As expected of their young miss. He actually wanted to spoil and spoil His Majesty, and even made His Majesty responsible for being as beautiful as a flower. Who else in the world could do that? In fact, Mu Yan regretted the words the moment they left her mouth. At that moment, she didn't know why she had gone crazy. Listening to those people slander and disrespect Di Mingju, he unexpectedly feels the anger in his heart rising in bursts. Then, in the heat of the moment, he blurted out these words. My man. I pamper and spoil him, he's as beautiful as a flower, heavens. What did she just say? Mayan abruptly stops in her tracks, putting on a brave front while being timid at heart. She glares at Di Mingju. Forget everything that I just said. Di Mingju's face carries a never-before-seen smile. When Mu Yan wanted to let go of his hand, he pulled it back. Which sentence did you forget? Did you admit that Ben Jun is your man? Or did you forget that you said that you would spoil me? Love me? Wait a minute. She didn't say love at all. Chapter 699. Mu Yan fiercely glares back. Just as she's about to speak, a hand gently clasps her chin. Then, a kiss gently falls on her lips. The man's unique scent hits her in the face, caressing her lips and igniting the passion in her body. Yan, I'm very happy. The man says in a low, husky, magnetic voice, even if you still refuse to admit it, I'm sure that you have me in your heart. Mu Yan opens her mouth to speak, but the man's tongue has already gone straight in, taking away all her breath and her ability to think. When the kiss is over, her muddle-headed reason returns, and Mu Yan's hair stands up in hindsight. Because as soon as she opens her eyes, she finds that there are at least a dozen people watching them. Moreover, they're actually on the main road outside the tea house. This bastard. Does he even know what shame and integrity are? Jun Shang says, Ben Jun only has yen yen in his eyes, what are the other mortals? Can't see. Deep in the Wuang Mountains. The temperature here is so high that even martial practitioners can't stand it. Shui Yan and Guanhu's sweat has already soaked their hair and clothes. But they don't seem to feel the heat at all, as they're working hard to kill the strange beasts of Wuang Mountains. As the battle goes on, the two have gone from being flustered at the beginning to being skillful and at ease now. But they still look indescribably distressed. Even Shui Yan, this little girl, is covered in dirt, and her hair is stuck with mud and tied into knots. In stark contrast to them is Mu Yen, who's sitting on the side. There's a huge umbrella on top of her head, and fruits and roasted strange beast meat are placed on a flattened stone next to her. Di Mingju is grilling meat for her without complaint, and from time to time, he would grab a fruit and feed it to her. Besides eating, the only thing she has to do is occasionally pluck a few strings to prevent Shui Yan and Guanhu from falling into the encirclement. Nyangqin. Xiao Bao rushes over. There's a little sweat on his rosy little face, but his blue eyes are bright, and he throws himself into Mu Yan's arms. Mu Yan doesn't care about the sweat on his body, and kisses his pink and tender little face. Did you have fun? Xiao Bao nods. Then, he fished around in his storage device. Mother, this is an exotic beast that Bunny and I just hunted. It has a lot of meat for Mother to eat, and these fruits. Mu Yan smiles and nods. Thank you, Xiao Bao. Nyangqin likes it very much. Xiao Bao's eyes were curved, carrying the childishness of a 4 or 5-year-old child, indescribably cute. But very quickly, he straightened his face and said with some frustration, but the jade dragon snake that Mother wants, Bunny, and Big Sistering may have been looking for a long time, but we still can't find it. Mu Yan gently wipes the sweat from his forehead and is about to comfort him. Suddenly, Xiao Bao was lifted from the back of his collar. If you haven't found it, then what are you still doing here? Di Mingju says coldly, still not going to find it. Xiao Bao glared at him angrily. Let me go. This scoundrel, he's trying to steal his mother again. Unfortunately, to Di Mingju, his struggles can't even be considered as a cool breeze. Just as Xiao Bao was about to curse out loud, a piece of fragrant roasted meat was suddenly stuffed into his mouth. Go early and come back early. At night, the strange beasts in this Wuang mountain range won't be something that you little guys can deal with. He feels the roasted meat melting in his mouth. Chapter 700. After taking a few steps, he stops and looks at Mayan, Nyangqin, Xiao Bao, and Bunny will definitely find the jade dragon snake. Mayan beamed and said, all right. Nyangqin also believes that Xiao Bao will definitely find it. Her family's Xiao Bao had always been endlessly lucky. Didn't he find a bunch of treasures wherever he went? The Wuang mountain range was unimaginably huge, and the number of jade dragon snakes could be counted on one's fingers. If she wanted to find it, she could only rely on her baby and the fat rabbit. Di Mingju sits down next to Mayan. His actions are very habitual as he picks her up, placing her in his arms. Mu Yan pushed him away in disgust. Hot. Who knew that as soon as she finished speaking, the person hugging her below her would turn cold as though his body temperature had automatically adjusted? Although Mu Yan's cultivation was high and she wasn't that afraid of the heat, she couldn't help but let out a comfortable sigh when she touched such an ice-cold feeling in this scorching weather. Di Mingju kisses her soft and warm lips, his voice slightly hoarse. Yen Yen, is it comfortable? Do you want to be more comfortable? Ben Jun will definitely satisfy you. This scoundrel, why did he have to speak so ambiguously and cause people to have wild and fanciful thoughts? Don't you see that not far away, Shui Yan and Guanhu are both blushing and looking over with ambiguous expressions? Mayan is about to get up from Di Mingju's arms, when suddenly, the sound of footsteps comes from afar. She raised her eyebrows and concentrated her profound qi in her ears. Soon, the conversation could be heard. It's so hot here. One of those two bitches has a big belly and the other is covered in wounds. They wouldn't come here, would they? Don't say any more. Master has ordered us to find that bitch even if we have to turn the entire mountain upside down. Let's hurry up and search. Otherwise, it'll be even more troublesome when it gets dark. What if they have already run out of the Wuwang Mountains? Ha! Do you think they can escape? Our men are guarding every entrance in this mountain range. Mu Yan listened to the conversation of the men and looked thoughtfully at a bush not far away. At this moment, the group of people seemed to have noticed the sounds of fighting. Let's go and take a look. Maybe it's those two bitches. In Mu Yan's field of vision, a group of men wearing the same style of yellow clothes quickly appeared. Every one of them had a very high cultivation, at the very least, they were at the early stages of Heaven Realm. The two leading them had already reached the peak of the Heaven stage. Seeing Mayan's group, they are obviously stunned. They didn't expect to meet someone in such a dangerous place like the Wuwang Mountains. After seeing Mayan's appearance, the eyes of the two leaders suddenly brighten. May I know which sect you are from? Have you seen a man and a pregnant woman here? Mu Yan glances at them and ignores them. In Di Mingju's eyes, apart from Mayan, all other creatures are trash. Shui Yan and Guanhu saw that the mist didn't give them any orders, so they focused on attracting strange beasts and fighting them to accumulate experience. The air froze for a moment. The yellow-clothed man in the lead had a sinister expression on his face. I'm asking you a question. Did you hear me? Boss. A wretched-looking man at the side rolled his eyes around Mu Yan's body, and said with a lewd smile, I think we don't need to look for those two bitches anymore. Chapter 701. Hearing his subordinate's words, the leader of the yellow-clothed men look at each other, then their gazes fall on Mayan, revealing greedy and amazed expressions. You're right. He swallows, approaching Mayan step by step, although it would take a lot of time to get a woman pregnant with a child. But if we bring back such a top-notch product, it would be different. After saying that, he thinks that he would see the angry and fearful expressions of this group of people. Who knew that Shui Yan and Guanhu would only look at them with pity, minding their own business and continuing to attack the strange beasts? They don't know what method they've used, but these strange beasts don't seem to see them at all. They just roar and concentrate on attacking Shui Yan and Guanhu. As for Mayan, she finally raises her head, slightly narrowing her eyes at them. Tell me, where did you trash come from? Trash. This woman has eaten a bear's heart and a leopard's gall, she actually dares to call them trash. The yellow-clothed man takes a step forward, looking at her with malicious eyes, about to speak. Suddenly, there's a loud bang, and a sharp pain comes from the back of his head. The yellow-clothed man gives a muffled groan, his whole body throwing itself to the ground. Then, he saw a small figure and a round fat rabbit step over his body one after another. Nyangqin. Nyangqin. We found the jade dragon snake. Xiao Bao doesn't notice the yellow-clothed man under his feet, as he pounces into Mayan's arms. The fat rabbit also makes a howling sound, bouncing to the side. It even audaciously steals a piece of barbecue from Di Mingju's side. To show off its contribution. You dare. The yellow-clothed man gets up from the ground, his face covered in dust, two nosebleeds flowing from his nose. He roars, I'll kill you, bang. There's another sound, and he's kicked to the ground once again. But this time, he can't get up. The last thing the yellow-clothed man hears is the roar of beasts, as well as the rumble of 10,000 beasts galloping. Then, with a snap, the yellow-clothed man's head is crushed, red, yellow, and white brain matter spilling all over the ground. In a split second, he's dead. The remaining yellow-clothed man doesn't even have the time to resist, and is also trampled into a puddle of meat. Xiao Bao hugged Mu Yan and hugged her neck tightly. Although there was no fear on his little face, he still revealed a nervous expression. The fat rabbit jumped up and down. It was the first time it let out a weak whimper in front of a mutated beast. It's not that this rabbit is weak, but there are simply too many enemies. This rabbit can't control them all. Mu Yan's expression is somewhat dignified. It seems that this jade dragon snake is the leader of all the beasts in this Wuwang mountain range. Therefore, when the fat rabbit caught the jade dragon snake, the strange beasts that were supposed to be sleeping during the day all woke up and chased after them. However, for some reason, these strange beasts suddenly stopped in front of Mu Yan. All of them glared at them and howled. The might of 10,000 beasts was released. No matter how strong a martial artist was, they could only tremble under such a formation. Shui Yan and Guan Hu also turned pale and hide behind Mayan. Shui Yan grabbed Mu Yan's sleeve and said in a trembling voice, "Miss, what should we do?" As far as the eye could see, it was densely packed with beasts. It was too terrifying. Rustling sounds could be heard from the bushes nearby, as well as the muffled cries of a woman. But at this time, Mu Yan has no time to care about them. Chapter 702. The jade dragon snake was in the fat rabbit's body space. The reason why these beasts didn't attack was probably because they were afraid of the fat rabbit's pressure. But if they didn't release the jade dragon snake, these beasts wouldn't let it go. However, it was impossible for her to hand over the jade dragon snake. This was her greatest reliance for the Nether Flame army to ascend to the cultivation continent. Mayan turns her wrist, and the Tian Mo Qin appears in her palm. Since he couldn't take it by trickery, he might as well take it by force. However, before she could pluck the strings, her wrist was grabbed. Di Mingju's wide palm gently moves along her wrist, finally wrapping her small hand in his palm. It's just some strange beasts. How could Madame bother to deal with them? This monarch will help you deal with them. Mu Yan frowns and looks at him, saying somewhat fiercely, "You stay here obediently, don't make a move." This guy, could it be that he's forgotten that if he interferes too much in the Yanwu continent, he will suffer a backlash? Especially when it comes to killing, if there are too many casualties, the backlash Di Mingju will suffer will certainly be even greater. Yan, can I understand that you're worried about me? Di Mingju grabs hold of Mayan's hand as she tries to struggle free, his fingers interlocking with hers. Then, with a faint smile, she said, "However, you are underestimating your future husband too much. To deal with these strange beasts, I don't need to kill them." As soon as he finished speaking, he let go of Mu Yan's hand and took a step forward, looking at the densely packed strange beasts. Meeting this man's eyes that were as cold as 10,000-year-old ice, the exotic beasts at the front of the line couldn't help but shiver. Then, Di Mingju narrowed his eyes and growled, "Scram." In the next moment, an invisible pressure suddenly spreads out with Di Mingju as the center. Mu Yan and the others did not feel anything, but those strange beasts that were still ferocious just now seemed to have felt some kind of terrifying aura. Their eyes were filled with terror as they turned around and ran. Even the fat rabbit howls and quickly hides inside Mayan space. In just a few short breaths, the surroundings were completely empty, not even a single mutated beast could be seen. Mayan turns her lifeless gaze towards Di Mingju. She had always known that this man was powerful, but she didn't expect him to be this powerful. Even Xiao Bao stares blankly at Di Mingju, his big blue eyes rippling with the emotion of a child's worship. Di Mingju only feels that his mood is indescribably comfortable. When Jun Shangdaran was in the Shushan continent, he was worshipped and revered every day, but he never felt that it was a big deal. But today, when he looked at Mu Yan and Xiao Bao's eyes, he only felt indescribable joy. However, before he can take the opportunity to flirt with Mayan, Mu Yan's line of sight had already turned to the bushes at the side, her voice neither cold nor indifferent. "Are you still not ready to come out?" After a long time, the bushes shook violently, producing the sound of clothes rubbing against each other. Soon after, a man and a woman crawled out from the underbrush and kneeled in front of Mayan. Both of them were in a sorry state, and there were many wounds on their bodies. The woman was as thin as a stick and her face was pale, but her belly was bulging. It was obvious that she was pregnant. Mu Yan went straight to the point. "Who are those people chasing you?" The pregnant woman and the man looked at each other before shaking their heads with tears in their eyes. I don't know who those people are. I only know that they are beasts, they are all deranged beasts. Ah. My belly hurts so much. Chapter 703. The pregnant woman suddenly lets out a mournful scream, clutching her stomach and collapsing. How are you? She's going to give birth. Mu Yan's calm voice comes. The man is startled, nervously looking at Mu Yan, then kowtows to her. "I beg you, please saving her, I beg you. As long as you can saving her and the child's life, I'm willing to be your slave for the rest of my life." Mu Yan crouches down to examine the pregnant woman's body. Soon after, her brows tightly wrinkle. Because this pregnant woman's physical condition is very poor, she's all skin and bones, but the baby inside is very well fed. Moreover, this pregnant woman's bone structure is only 15 or 16 years old. It's simply not a suitable age for pregnancy. It's simply impossible to safely give birth to a child with such a body. Unless, in Mu Yan's mind, the surgery that Bailey Luin wrote down in his notes, cesarean section. However, as soon as she thinks of this surgery, her mind unconsciously flashes to the scene of her previous life being cut open and Xiao Bao being dug out. Her face turns deathly pale in an instant, and she subconsciously reaches out to grab Xiao Bao, hugging him tightly in her arms. Xiao Bao doesn't know why his mother suddenly hugs him, and it's a little tight, a little painful. But Xiao Bao doesn't make a sound. Instead, he wraps his little hands around Mu Yan's neck, and softly says, "Nyangqin, don't be afraid, Xiao Bao is here." Xiao Bao has always known that his mother is very afraid of losing him. When he was even younger, Mu Yan would always wake up in the middle of the night in the cave and hold him in her arms, covered in cold sweat, as if he was a treasure that had been lost and regained. Xiao Bao likes how his mother cares about him, values him, and loves him. Because he also loves his mother the most. Mu Yan takes a deep breath, feeling Xiao Bao's small and soft body in her arms, and slowly calms down. After so many years, she has learned to forget that hellish past life. But in fact, those painful memories of the past have always been engraved in the depths of her soul. From time to time, they would drill out and gnaw at her until she's covered in bruises. But she has long been accustomed to it, and can easily get through it. However, the next moment, her body, together with Xiao Bao, is pulled into a warm embrace. Di Mingju's low, husky, magnetic voice rings in her ears. "Yen Yen, no matter what you've experienced in the past, from now on, I will accompany you and your son. I won't let anyone bully you again." At that moment, Mayan only feels a warm current flowing from Di Mingju's body into her body, dispersing all the coldness and emptiness from her body. She reached out and hugged the man tightly, not letting go until the pregnant woman moaned again. Mu Yan took another deep breath and used the knife to cut open the pregnant woman's stomach. What are you going to do? The man revealed a horrified expression. You're the same as those animals. Are you going to cut opening her stomach and take our child from inside? No. No. The man lunged over, trying to snatch the pregnant woman away. Giving the back to me. I will never allow you to hurting her and the child. Mu Yan frowns, the information revealed in this man's words, but now was not the time to think about this. Guan Hu, tell this man not to make any noise and disturb my surgery. Chapter 704. Under the effect of Mu Yan's draft, the pregnant woman, who was still moaning, also falls asleep. The man's face is covered with tears. He looks at Mu Yan, who's cutting open the pregnant woman's belly bit by bit, but he's unable to move. An hour later. The baby's cries resound in everyone's ears like a kitten's cry. Mu Yan looks at the man with a lifeless face, as if he's already stupid. She says indifferently, "It's a boy." The little pink dumpling is wrapped in a fluffy blanket, kicking its little hands and feet from time to time. Everyone curiously gathers around, their faces filled with amazement. Nyangqin, is this a newborn baby? Xiao Bao can't help but reach out and poke, so soft and small. Could it be that when Xiao Bao was born, he was also like this? Although it's soft and tender, it's so wrinkled that it doesn't look good at all. In the future, when Nyangqin gives birth to a little sister, will she also be this ugly? No. Definitely not, Nyangqin's little sister, of course she's the best. Xiao Bao's thoughts scatter. Meanwhile, Mu Yan has already washed her blood-stained hands in the stream that Shui Yan had just found. She looks at the pregnant woman who's slowly opening her eyes. Because of the draft used to clean and treat the wound on her abdomen is almost healed by the time Mu Yan stitches it up. Mu Yan then feeds her a draft that replenishes qi and nourishes blood. After giving birth, the woman's complexion is unexpectedly rosier and more beautiful than before. You're still alive. That's great. That's great. The man pounces on the pregnant woman, hugging her and crying. After a long time, the two kneel down towards Mu Yan, and slowly reveal their identities. The man's name is Ma Yuan, and the girl who has just given birth, but is less than 16, is called Lu Ying. What's shocking is that these two people didn't even know each other a year ago. I'm a direct descendant of the Lu family in Huangyao's, Maple City. The elders in my family have always said that I'm very talented. A year ago, on my 15th birthday, I broke through to profound stage. Lu Ying's expression was somewhat absent-minded. It was clearly a memory from over a year ago. However, to her, it was as if a lifetime had passed. At that time, I thought I was the happiest, the most high-spirited person I had ever been. But in the blink of an eye, I was imprisoned in a small house that neither the heavens nor the earth responded to. A man I didn't know pounced on me, ignoring my struggles. I tried to resist, I tried to commit suicide, but I didn't succeed. I really wanted to die. Lu Ying's words were incoherent. Her eyes were unfocused, but her body was trembling non-stop. It was obvious that she had suffered a great shock. Ma Yuan quickly hugged her and comforted her carefully for a while before Lu Ying calmed down. However, Mu Yan frowned, and said in a deep voice, "Do you know who captured you? What is their purpose?" Ma Yuan grabbed Lu Ying's hand, looked at Mu Yan, and continued speaking on her behalf. "I don't know the specific identity of those people, but I can be sure that their status is definitely not low. The main reason they captured women with outstanding aptitudes like Ying is to get them pregnant with fetuses. Then, when the fetuses have been raised for 8 or 9 months, they will remove these fetuses from the women's abdomens. A trace of fear appeared in Ma Yuan's eyes. Chapter 705. Ma Yuan's voice stopped abruptly. Because he discovered that Mu Yan's expression was bone-piercingly cold, and the sharp killing intent around her body caused his entire body to feel cold and numb. He couldn't even speak clearly. Only when the outrageously handsome man by her side pulls her into his arms and gently caresses her, does Ma Yan's expression recover. Continue. Ma Ding calmed himself down and said, that group of people raise pregnant women like they call them, so, and those men who force these women to become pregnant are called, breeding pigs. I am one of the breeding pigs. Mu Yan's eyes are filled with deep disgust. It wasn't just insulting titles like sow and breeding pig. More importantly, she had never expected Ma Yuan to be one of those scumbags who humiliated innocent women. Feeling the murderous intent in the eyes of Ma Yan and the others towards Ma Yuan, Lu Ying suddenly pounced over and blocked Ma Yuan. She said loudly, "Don't blame Big Brother Ma. He is a good person. He was forced. Moreover, because of me, even his family was killed by those scum. Please don't kill him." Ma Yuan pushed her away and revealed a bitter smile as if he had accepted his fate. Don't say any more. No matter what, I'm the scum who forced you. Miss, if you think I deserve to die, then just kill me. However, Lu Ying shook his head with all his might, and cried towards Mu Yan, "Big Brother Ma Yuan's family has been captured by that group of beasts. If he is not obedient, those people will tear his family apart. Big Brother Ma Yuan has no choice." As it turned out, the breeding pig that the organization caught also required the man to be extremely talented. Only then could they ensure that the fetus that was conceived was sufficiently outstanding. Some of these breeding pigs were willing scumbags who wanted to defile more women. But there were also some people like Ma Yuan who had no choice but to be coerced. However, something unexpected happened during this process. Just like fate, Ma Yuan fell in love with Lu Ying the moment he saw her. Lu Ying also slowly fell in love with Ma Yuan due to his gentleness towards her. Their child could be said to be the fruit of their love. However, this crystal was about to be taken out. Before it could see the light of day, it would be strangled to death. Even Lu Ying would definitely die during this process. How could Ma Yuan bear to see his lover and child die so tragically? Therefore, for the first time, he disobeyed the organization and rescued Lu Ying, who was about to give birth. Because of this, his family was killed by the organization. Even they, if they had not met Mu Yan, would have ended up in a miserable state. The two of them cried miserably. The baby wrapped in the blanket seemed to feel something and began to cry as well. Shui Yan couldn't help but say, "Don't cry. Although you guys had a hard time in the past, meeting young Miss is your greatest fortune. If you really have no home to return to, then come back to Hellflame Valley with us." Hellflame Valley? Lu Ying and Ma Yuan asked simultaneously. However, Lu Ying had a confused expression on her face. However, Ma Yuan's complexion greatly changes. He looks at Mayan in shock. You are the Enchantress of Medicine, Mayan. The Enchantress of Medicine June Mayan who rose to fame in just one short year, trampling the godly Dr. Qian Qing under her feet, beating the ghost city into submission, and causing Jingqing country to be destroyed overnight. Chapter 706. She lightly brushes the hem of her clothes, as if carelessly saying, "Speak, who are you? What's the origin of that organization?" Ma Yuan's expression changes, as if he's experiencing a fierce struggle in his heart. Even Lu Ying looks at him in surprise. "Brother Ma." Ma Yuan steels his heart and kowtows heavily towards Mayan. "If it's you, Madam Enchantress, perhaps you really have the ability to contend against them." That organization, in fact, was founded by Tiandao sect. What? As soon as these words come out, whether it's Lu Ying or Guanhu Shuiyan, they all reveal shocked expressions. Lu Ying is even more incredulous. How is this possible? Isn't Tiandao's sect the largest upright sect in the Yanwu continent? Shouldn't they be upholding justice, rooting out the strong and helping the weak? How could they do such a deranged thing? Ma Yuan sneers, his face full of ridicule, upholding justice, rooting out the strong and helping the weak. In fact, Tiandao sect, the leader of the world's practitioners in name, is actually the dirtiest and most disgusting place in the world. For their own benefit, what kind of deranged thing can't they do? Mayan's expression doesn't have the slightest bit of shock. She only lightly asks, the people of Tiandao's sect want to use fetuses with excellent aptitudes to refine elixirs. Yes. Ma Yuan clenches his teeth. I also found out by accident. Several elders of Tiandao's sect have already reached the peak of pre-celestial, and even complete pre-celestial, but they are still unable to temper their body and soul, and welcome the thunder tribulation. There are also some elders who attract the thunder tribulation, but fail to cross it. These people all want to ascend, want to live forever, but their lifespans have already reached the end. In order to obtain more lifespans, in order to increase their strength and ascend as soon as possible, these people found a deranged method from ancient books. That is, to cut out the unborn fetuses with excellent aptitudes, along with the mother's womb palace, refine them into elixirs, and then take them. Every time they take one, they can increase their lifespan by 2 or 3 years. However, as they take more and more elixirs, their age far exceeds 100 years, and their need for this kind of elixir increases. Naturally conceived fetuses can no longer meet their needs. Therefore, they came up with this method of capturing unmarried women with excellent aptitudes, and then raising the fetuses. When Lu Ying heard the last part, she clenched her teeth tightly. Her whole body was trembling. Why? How could this be? My little brother was proud of joining Tiandao's sect's outer sect, but how could they be such beasts? Woo woo woo. Ma Yuan embraced Lu Ying, who was sobbing uncontrollably, in his arms. His expression was one of unspeakable grief and indignation. But no matter how much grief and indignation they felt, they could only turn into helplessness and despair in the end. Once again, Ma Yuan kowtows towards Mayan, Madam Enchantress, I only beg you to save those innocent girls who are being kept in captivity, and to completely destroy that disgusting place. The pills that the Tiandao sect uses to nurture the fetus are all piled up in the underground palace. As long as those pills are destroyed, the people of the Tiandao sect will not be able to nurture the fetus in a short period of time. Mu Yan is silent and does not speak. Ma Yuan suddenly thought of the heavy guards in the underground palace and the powerful Tiandao sect, and immediately felt a wave of regret. Chapter 707. Although those women were innocent, but if Miss June were to save them and bring trouble upon herself, how could he feel at ease? Ma Yuan wished he could give himself a tight slap. He was about to speak, but he heard the man beside Mu Yen say in a low, magnetic voice, "You don't like it?" Mayan's eyes are heavy, but she doesn't speak. Di Mingju's tone is even more indifferent, as if he's talking about a family matter of chatting and eating. If you don't like it, then just destroy it. What's there to hesitate about? Ben Jun can. Mayan casts a glance at him. Behave yourself, you're not allowed to make a move in the Yanwu continent. I will deal with the Tiandao sect myself. I'm just calculating if there's an auspicious day this month that's good for killing. Di Mingju looks at the little girl's fiendish appearance, thinking, Ben Jun really spoils you to the heavens, you actually dare to tell Ben Jun to settle down a bit. But thinking like this in his heart, Jun Shangdaren's actions still obediently settle down. When Shui Yan and Guan Hu hear Mayan's words, they suddenly become excited. Miss, are we finally going to attack the Tiandao sect? Haha, that's great. Ever since the last battle in Jingqing country, how long has it been since we last moved? Our brother's bones are about to go moldy. I've long disliked those bastards from the Tiandao sect. Now I can finally destroy them. Ma Yuan and Lu Ying were dumbfounded. Wait a minute. He had only asked Miss June to help save those innocent girls. How did it develop to the point of destroying the Heavenly Dao sect? That was the Tiandao sect. Tiandao sect. Yinwu continent's most powerful sect, the number of elders who have reached the pre-celestial level is innumerable. Was the Tiandao sect so easy to destroy? Upon hearing Ma Yuan's stuttering question, Shui Yan sneered. So what if it's the Tiandao sect? As long as my young mistress wants to do it, there's nothing she can't do. Isn't Gong Chinchua powerful? Isn't Jingqing country powerful? Isn't it still destroyed by my family's miss with a flick of her finger? Not to mention, the Tiandao sect is even harboring our young miss's greatest enemy, Gong Chinchua. We've long wanted to annihilate the Tiandao sect. Now that it has delivered itself to our doorstep, it's simply courting death. Ma Yuan looks at Shui Yan and Guan Hu, who are spitting saliva as they speak, without the slightest bit of fear. Then he looks at Mayan, who has a tender and beautiful complexion, just like a pure and innocent girl. He gulped silently. Princess. Princess. In front of us is the Wuwang mountain range, and it's already close to dusk. It's too dangerous to go in now. Why don't we go back? At the edge of the Wuwang mountain range, Li Wan led a group of subordinates. Her face was twisted and her eyes were filled with hatred. Shut up. That slut dared to humiliate this princess. This princess must capture her, pull out her tendons, and peel off her skin. Whoever dares to disobey this princess's order, just wait to be chopped up and fed to the dogs. Under Li Wan's tyrannical power and threat, the group of guards had no choice but to follow her into the Wuwang Mountains. Yesterday, Li Wan was ruthlessly taught a lesson by Mu Yen, and the guards around her were also mostly dealt with by Mu Yen. How could Li Wan have ever suffered this kind of grievance? Her heart is filled with hatred, but there's nothing she can do about Mu Yen. It wasn't until this morning when a new guard arrived from Huangyao country that she decided to wash away her shame. Chapter 708. Therefore, even if she knew the dangers of the Wuwang Mountains, Li Wan still desperately rushed in. But soon, Li Wan regretted it. As the night fell, Li Wan's ears were filled with the terrible roars of beasts. But there was no one around her. She was separated from her bodyguard. Hey, there's a woman here. Quickly see if it's the escaped bitch. Just when Li Wan was panicking, she heard the voices of several men. It's good that it's a human. Li Wan breathed a sigh of relief and shouted, "Bold wicked people, this Princess Li Wan is here, quickly come and greet me." In the dark shadows, several men in yellow clothes slowly appeared. The leader's eyes unscrupulously swept over the princess and said in a low voice, "Princess. You really are the daughter of the Li family. TSK, since you're a princess, your bones must be good. Leader is right, we can't find that bitch, we'll definitely be punished when we go back, but if we bring a princess back." Hee. The voices of these people were very soft, Li Wan couldn't hear them clearly. She impatiently shouted, "A bunch of trash, what are you waiting for? Why don't you quickly send this princess out of this damn place? Don't worry, when this princess gets out, there will be no lack of benefits for you." The leader revealed a gloomy smile and walked towards Li Wan step by step. Good. Since it's the princess's order, we will definitely let the princess leave this damn place. Li Wan-er looked at the man's gloomy eyes, frowned and said with disgust, "What are you? You dare to look at this princess like that? Believe it or not, this princess will let someone dig out your eyes." Before she finished her words, her eyes suddenly went black and she fainted. When she woke up again, Li Wan-er felt a burst of cold all over her body. From time to time, she could hear women crying, moaning, and hysterical cursing. Li Wan-er frowned and wanted to roar, but her whole body was limp and she couldn't even move. She reluctantly opened her eyes and found that she was in a dark and empty room. Around the room, there were iron cages. When Li Wan-er saw the scene in the iron cages, she was so scared that she almost screamed. Because in each cage was a naked woman. Some of them were like walking corpses, motionless, without any signs of life on their faces. There was also a man who was riding on her. The man was constantly moving his body, but the woman under him had a numb expression, as if the one being defiled was not her at all. There were also 2 or 3 women who struggled and cried under the men's bodies, but what they got in return was even more inhumane abuse. Even Li Wan-er, who had always been vicious by nature, couldn't help but shiver when she saw these hellish scenes. At this moment, she heard a somewhat familiar female voice. "You haven't caught that escaped sow yet. Princess, please calm down. Those 2 bitches escaped into the Wuwang Mountains. Now that it's already dark, I'm afraid they've already been eaten by the strange beasts in the Wuwang Mountains." Chapter 709. Yes, yes. Princess, please calm down. The man's voice is full of fear as he says shakily, "We didn't do a good job. I didn't expect that this group of sows would be so shameless. I told them to stay in a separate room and serve them well, but they dared to run away. Princess is wise, letting them be like real sows, mating in public, giving birth in public, and not letting them wear a single piece of clothing. Like this, let's see how they can run, and whether they have the face to run." Li Wan-er raises her head with difficulty and looks in the direction of the voice. When she sees the woman's face in the faint candlelight, Li Wan-er suddenly widens her eyes. Gong Qinxue. No wonder she felt the woman's voice was familiar. This person turns out to be the princess of Jingqing country. Li Wan-er once saw this woman at a banquet in Huangyao country. Hearing Li Wan-er's voice, Gong Qinxue looks over. The yellow-clothed man standing beside her immediately said, reporting to Princess, "Although we didn't find those 2 bitches, we met Li Wan alone in the Wuwang mountain range. We felt that Li Wan-er's aptitude was pretty good, so we brought her back." Gong Qinxue's gaze lingers on Li Wan-er's body, as if looking at an applauding plaything. Li Wan-er immediately becomes angry and says, "Gong Qinxue, what are you looking at? Hurry up and let me go. If you dare to touch a single hair of mine, my father will absolutely tear you to pieces." Gong Qinxue laughed in a low voice when she heard this. Then, the light laughter turns into unbridled laughter. She glances at the man in yellow next to her and says slowly, "You did well." The man in yellow hears this and immediately breathes a sigh of relief. He knows that he escaped a disaster. Gong Qinxue's gaze falls on Li Wan-er again and she faintly says, "Since it's the princess, of course we must give the princess enough treatment. I remember that Li Wan-er is usually very desolate. I'm afraid it's not enough to have just one man. Go find a few more breeding pigs for the princess. I believe Her Royal Highness will be satisfied, ha ha ha." The man in yellow immediately obeys and quickly whistles. Soon, 3 to 5 muscular men with half-naked bodies walked out. These men's cultivation is very high, but their appearance is very ugly. Seeing Li Wan-er lying on the ground, unable to move, they all revealed sinister expressions. Li Wan-er's expression finally changed. She screamed and wanted to retreat. Gong Qinshue, you bitch. I am the princess of Huang Yao country. Who do you think you are? How dare you touch me? Your Jingqing country has already been destroyed by Jun Mayan. Who in the world doesn't know that? You trash, if you dare to lay your hands on me, I promise to make you wish you were dead. My father will never let you off. Hearing Li Wan'er say, your Jingqing country has already been destroyed by Jun Mayan, Gong Qinshue's face distorts. Then, her smile became somewhat sinister. Your father won't let me go. Ha! Don't you know that your imperial father is also counting on the pills we produce to prolong his life? Li Wan'er's face froze, and she said in disbelief, what did you say? Gong Qinshue waved her hand, and the yellow-clothed man immediately dragged out a woman from a cage in the corner. Chapter 7:10. Li Wan'er looked over nervously, only to see the naked woman staring at the ceiling. There was no focus in her pupils. And on her belly, there were 2 hideous scars. But this was not what shocked Li Wan'er. What shocked her was the woman's appearance. Moo. Imperial Mother. Li Wan'er's voice trembled as she screamed. This woman's appearance was exactly the same as her imperial mother, who should have died in childbirth 2 years ago. Li Wan'er's imperial mother was imperial concubine Qing in the imperial palace of Huang Yao country. She still remembered that more than 2 years ago, her imperial mother was pregnant with a child. The imperial doctor said it was likely to be a boy. At that time, Li Wan'er thought that by helping her brother ascend the throne, she would be able to do whatever she wanted. However, he didn't expect that his mother would suddenly disappear a month before the birth. When she was found, she was already an unrecognizable corpse wearing his mother's clothes. Gong Qinshue slowly walked in front of Li Wan'er and grabbed her hair, forcing her face to stick to the scars on imperial concubine Chang's belly. Do you know what the pill your imperial father ate was made of? It's the baby in this woman's belly, your brother. Gong Qinshue looked at Li Wan'er, who was desperately shaking her head in horror, and laughed even more happily. Your mother's aptitude is really good. She's already had 2 fetuses removed, but the yin essence in her body hasn't been exhausted yet. That's why we still kept her womb palace, and in just 2 months, she's pregnant with her 3rd child. But after this child is removed, she will be useless. At that time, we will cut off her womb palace. Gong Qinshue's gaze fell on Li Wan'er's pale face, and her smile was like that of a devil, but I believe that your Imperial Highness's aptitude must be better than your Imperial Mother's, so you will definitely be able to have more fetuses. No, no, no. You can't do this to me. Li Wan'er finally broke down and cried, I don't want to be a sow, I don't want to get pregnant, I don't want to have a fetus removed. Gong Qinshue, please let me go, I will do anything you want me to do. Please let me go. However, her screams and cries did not attract the slightest bit of sympathy. 3 strong men walked up to her and dragged her to the side without hesitation. They tore off her clothes. These breeding pigs had done this countless times. Hearing Li Wan'er's screams, threats, and cries, not only did he not feel the slightest bit of pity, he became even more excited. One man after another disregarded her struggles and cries as they ravaged her body. In the beginning, Li Wan'er cursed and cried hysterically. In the end, she lost all her strength and could only moan as she drowned. At this moment, she suddenly felt an unprecedented sense of regret. In front of her eyes, it was as if the resentful and hateful eyes of the men she had played with before appeared. Those men had been drugged by her and were humiliated by her. If they didn't serve her well, they would be rewarded to her subordinates and end up in a miserable state. And at this moment, her humiliation, despair, and pain seemed to overlap with those men. The heavenly Tao reincarnated. Now, this retribution had finally fallen on her head. The man in yellow shoved the drug into Li Wanner's mouth. Her body couldn't help but heat up. She shamelessly catered to the man's invasion. Chapter 711. Princess, the elixir you gave is really of the highest quality. The yellow-clothed man fawningly says to Gong Qinshue, after taking the elixir, the probability of these sows conceiving a fetus has increased a lot. Presumably, this elixir must have come from Master Jian Feng's hands. Gong Qinshue proudly smiles, not saying anything. The yellow-clothed man continues to flatter. In this world, the only person who can make Master Jian Feng casually take out an elixir is you, Princess. Master Jian Feng is truly devoted to you, Princess. Gong Qinshue's eyes darken, then she suddenly points to a woman in the corner and says in a low voice, "Pull that woman onto the dissection table for me." The yellow-clothed man stares blankly at her. But that woman's fetus is only 7 months old. I'm afraid that the effects of the elixir might not be the best. Gong Qinshue coldly looks at him. You want to disobey my orders? The yellow-clothed man is startled. This subordinate doesn't dare. What are you still standing there for? Hurry and pull that sow over. Gong Qinshue's expression is gloomy and dark. She also doesn't want to use a fetus that's not even a month old to refine elixir. However, the injury caused by that slut Jun Mayan several months ago still hasn't healed yet. Jian Feng has tried all kinds of methods, but he still couldn't let her body recover to its original state. In desperation, Jian Feng mentioned this place to nurture pill embryos. As long as she uses these specially raised pill embryos to refine a kind of elixir with the prescription, she can definitely recover immediately, and her strength might even improve. But these pill embryos are raised by the highest-level elders of the Heavenly Road sect to prolong their lifespan. Jian Feng tried every possible way to persuade the elders to agree to let a fetus heal Gong Qinshue. That is the already more than 8 months old fetus in Lu Ying's belly. Gong Qinshue is anxious, and she couldn't wait to come here, wanting to dig out the fetus along with her womb palace to let Jian Feng refine elixir to treat her injury. She didn't expect that Lu Ying would actually run away. In this way, the elders of the Heavenly Road sect might not agree to a second fetus. How could Gong Qinshue accept this? Since there's no 8-month fetus, 7 months is also fine. In any case, she must heal her injuries, restore her cultivation, and then find that slut Jun Mayan to take revenge. When the pregnant woman is dragged in front of Gong Qinshue, she unwaveringly protects her belly, her face full of panic and pleading. I beg you, don't kill my child. If you want to eat, eat me. Please. This was the first time the girl was pregnant. Even if the father of this child was a scumbag demon, an animal who forced her. However, as the child in her womb grew day by day, the girl's maternal instincts were aroused, and she wanted to protect the fetus in her womb. My name is Chen Lingyu. I am the daughter of an elder of the Purple Sun School. As long as you are willing to let my child go, I am willing to pay any price. I beg you. I beg you. The Ziyang House. Gong Qinshue's gaze fell upon Chen Lingyu, and the smile on her face became sinister and terrifying. So you're from the Ziyang sect. Looks like I've made the right choice. Ziyang sect, wasn't that the sect that betrayed her? Bai Chen was in. If it weren't for that Bai Chen, Shen Jinglin wouldn't have run away, and that slut Jun Mayan wouldn't have made preparations in advance, turning the tables around. Now that she had failed to capture Bai Chen, she could vent all her anger on Chen Lingyu. Chapter 712. Without any anesthetic, the man in yellow picks up a knife and cuts open her bulging belly. Don't hurt my child. Chen Lingyu lets out a mournful wail and struggles desperately. I beg you, don't hurt my child. Gong Chinchua, you are so crazy, you will get what you deserve. Even if I become a ghost, I will never let you go. Child, child, my child. Ah ah ah. Blood spreads on the dissection table, and Chen Lingyu's mournful cry echoes in the huge underground palace. The girls locked in the cages all revealed a look of sorrow and despair, as if they were the same kind of people. Even Li Wan, who is being defiled, stares blankly at this scene. Thinking that one day this will be her end, she can't stop her tears from gushing out. She really wants to die. If it is such a future, she would rather die. The fetus in Chen Lingyu's belly is cut out alive. The man in yellow quickly takes out a jade box, puts the fetus in the box, and hands it to Gong Chinchua. Gong Chinchua looks at the bloody fetus in the jade box with satisfaction. Especially when she sees that the baby in the box even bounces his calf, she is even more happy. This means that the baby's vitality is very strong, and refining it into elixirs will naturally have a better effect. Paw! Gong Chinchua closes the jade box and is about to leave. But the hem of her clothes is suddenly grabbed by a hand covered with blood. I curse you, not to have a good end, and go to the 18 levels of hell after death. Chen Lingyu's eyes stare at her, and the hatred in her eyes is like a sea of blood that fills the sky. There was no longer any trace of innocence on her young face. All that was left was a gloomy, cold, and deathly darkness. Gong Chinchua frowns, shakes off her hand, and sneers. This woman's uterus has been cut off, completely useless, throw her body out to feed the dogs. Yes, princess. Thousands of men in yellow are about to lift Chen Lingyu's body. Suddenly, there is a loud bang outside. The whole underground palace shakes, and the dust and stones above rustle down. Gong Chinchua frowns and asks in a deep voice, "What happened?" The yellow-robed man was also surprised. This subordinate will go take a look. However, before he could finish his sentence, a few yellow-robed men covered in blood stumbled into the room with fear written all over their faces. "Commander, someone has come to kill us. Our brothers can't hold them back." The yellow-robed man revealed an expression of disbelief. How is this possible? This place is so well hidden. Moreover, the guards outside are all at heaven rank. In this Yanwu continent, how many forces can contend with this organization? Even if they could resist, they would vaguely know that their side was inextricably linked to the Tiandao sect. Who would dare to offend the #1 sect in the world, the Tiandao sect? Gong Chinchua's expression changed, and a bad premonition surged in her heart. However, before she could confirm with the yellow-robed man, the iron door of the underground palace gave out a loud bang and collapsed. A figure dressed in clothes as white as snow appeared at the door, looking at Gong Chinchua lazily and coldly, causing Gong Chinchua's pupils to suddenly contract. June Mayan. It's actually June Mayan. Why was she here? Chapter 713. Gong Chinchua's lips tremble, the hatred and fear in her eyes mix together. She hoarsely spits out 3 words, June Mayan. As soon as she thinks of June Mayan's methods, and the humiliation and pain she once suffered when she fell into her hands, Gong Chinchua's body trembles like a sieve. You! Hurry up and stop this woman! Gong Chinchua screamed and ordered all the men in yellow to attack. He frantically retreated and then took out a token from his bosom. This token was given to her by Jian Feng to protect her life after he saved her last time. Its function was to teleport. However, there's no spiritual energy in the Yanwu continent. If she wants to activate this token, she can only consume a large amount of blood essence. Gong Chinchua was originally injured and had not yet recovered. This time, she had consumed a large amount of blood essence. She was afraid that she would never have the chance to ascend to the cultivation continent again. But at this moment, she had nowhere else to go. If she falls into June Mayan's hands, she will definitely die a very ugly death. A large mouthful of blood sprayed onto the token. Gong Chinchue's face was deathly pale, but the token lit up with a faint light, enveloping her within. Gong Chinchue fiercely glared at Mu Yen, who was not far away, and screamed, "Jun Mu Yen, just you wait, I will let you know the consequences of offending me." Gong Chinchue. Before she could finish her sentence, a white ball suddenly hit her in the chest. Gong Chinchue only heard a cracking sound from her ribs, and a sharp pain came from her chest. She suddenly spat out a mouthful of blood. She can't hold on to the baby's jade box in her hand. It flies out and falls into Mayan's hand. "My core embryo!" Gong Chinchue screamed unwillingly. This was her hope for recovery. However, the light from the token had already enveloped her completely, causing her to disappear without a trace. Mu Yan looks at the place where Gong Chinchue disappeared and frowns, disappeared into thin air. It's just a low-level teleportation array. Di Mingju's voice comes from the side, and the man takes advantage of this opportunity to pull her into his arms. This kind of transmission array generally only has a radius of 5.5 miles. If you want to catch her, Yen, it'll be as easy as turning over your hand. Mu Yan looks at the jade box in her hand and chuckles. There's no need, let's just wait to go to the Heavenly Road sect. There is no spiritual energy in the Yenwu continent. Gong Chinchue might have paid a considerable price to activate the transmission array. It's a pity that we can only linger on for a few more days. Di Mingju looks at the high-spirited young girl in his arms, her lazy and arrogant appearance. He only feels that he likes her very much. He, Di Mingju's woman, naturally has the capital to be arrogant. "Miss, everyone in this underground palace has been dealt with. Guanhu and Shuayen take the people of the Ink camp and the Grand Void camp who have just arrived, and throw the tied-up man in yellow and those, breeding pigs, on the ground. As for the naked women in the cages, Shuayen asked the Grand Void Battalion's people to take out clothes and put them on. However, when some women saw them, they would be slow to react and shed tears, asking themselves if they were saved. There were also some women who seemed to have lost their minds. No matter if they were saved or fed food, they didn't react at all. Even Guanhu and Shuayen, who were hard-hearted people, couldn't help but feel sour in their hearts as they watched this scene, feeling more and more that Tiandao sect and Gong Chinchue weren't human. When Li Wan'er found out that it was Mu Yen who had barged in, she thought that she wouldn't have a good ending. Chapter 7:14. Feeling the pain in her body and the warmth of the robe, Li Wan'er finally couldn't help but cry. "Miss! Miss!" Shuayen suddenly saw Qin Lingyu on the dissection table and screamed, "It's senior sister Qin. Miss, quickly take a look. Can senior sister Qin be saved?" Shuayen was originally a disciple of the Purple Sun sect, but she didn't enter the sect because she admired its martial arts. It was because Bai Chen had saved her life. Therefore, after Bai Chen left the Purple Sun sect and joined the Dark Flame Army, Shuayen also left with him. However, Bai Chen and Shuayen were very attached to the Purple Sun sect. Especially after they chose to leave, the elders of Ziyang Zone not only didn't blame them, they even prepared a lot of drafts and weapons for them. Now that she saw her senior sister Qin in such a state, how could Shuayen not be shocked? Mu Yan quickly steps forward and checks on Qin Lingyu's condition. Her breathing had stopped, and her heartbeat had also stopped. It was obvious that there was no hope for her. Shuayen had also learned some medical knowledge, so she couldn't help but reveal a sorrowful expression. But when Mu Yan sees Qin Lingyu's stomach being cut open and the fetus being taken out alive, a burning flame flashes through her eyes. In her previous life, Xiaobao had also been poached away by the Su family like this by Gong Qinxue. If she had not been reincarnated, her ending would have been as miserable as Qinlingyu's. Mu Yan takes a deep breath, takes a step forward, and quickly sutures the wound on Qinlingyu's abdomen. Shui Yan wipes her tears, her eyes red as she watches Mayan stitch up Qinlingyu's body. Just when she thought that the young miss only wanted to keep senior sister Chen's body intact, she realized that the young miss didn't give up. Mu Yan stuffs a pill into Qinlingyu's mouth, and props up her chin to make her swallow it. However, Qinlingyu's aura was still completely gone, and her heartbeat was still dead. Shui Yan said with red and swollen eyes, "Miss, senior apprentice sister Qin is already dead. No matter how powerful you are, it's also impossible to resurrect a dead person. Please don't be sad." However, Mu Yan's calm and steady voice came to her ears. That might not be the case. Not necessarily. Not necessarily what? Not necessarily dead. Shui Yan's eyes widened. Guanhu and the girl who was still conscious also revealed shocked expressions. Even Di Mingju is looking at his wife with great interest. Could she really bring the dead back to life? How was this possible? Mu Yan quickly recalled Bailey Liuin's notes. Then, he placed his hands on Qinlingyu's chest. Once. Then, he pried open Qinlingyu's mouth and slowly exhaled. Di Mingju's face immediately turns black. Her Yan is actually kissing someone else, even if it's a woman. Jun Shangdaran naturally doesn't know that this is artificial respiration, a method of cardiopulmonary resuscitation. But Mu Yan knows. She remembered what Bailey Liuin had written in his notebook. If a person's heart suddenly stopped beating, there was a chance that they could be saved by performing CPR within a short period of time. This was Mu Yan's first time using CPR. She didn't know if it would be successful. But looking at Qinlingyu's corpse, she couldn't help but think of herself in her previous life. If God hadn't given her a chance, would she still be able to have Xiaobao again? Could she still save her brother and father in this life and establish the Nether Flame Army? Can she still meet Di Mingju? Chapter 7:15. Cough. Qinlingyu suddenly opens her eyes, takes a deep breath, and then starts coughing violently. The entire underground palace is strangely silent, only Qinlingyu's coughing echoes. Even Di Mingju shows a shocked expression. Chen. Senior sister Chen, are you a human or a ghost? Shui Yan approaches Qinlingyu, trembling with fear, and pokes her arm, warm, alive. God, senior sister Qin, you're alive. You're really alive. Qinlingyu stares blankly at Shui Yan, then looks around, her line of sight focusing a little. Soon after, cries of surprise rise and fall all around. Alive, there's clearly no breathing and no heartbeat, but she's still alive. Don't you know that our miss is omnipotent? She can revive the dead, regrow flesh and bones, and bring the dead back to life. That's nothing difficult. Qinlingyu slowly lowers her head to look at her belly, and then suddenly seems to remember something. My child. My child. Don't worry, the child is still alive. Mayan opens the jade box, cuts open the placenta, and takes out the baby inside. Qinlingyu snatches the child, as if she's robbing it. The baby's skin is blue and purple, as if it's dead. Qinlingyu's complexion greatly changes. Just as she's about to scream, she sees Mayan taking out a silver needle and pricking it on the baby's back. The baby's body twitches violently, and the blue and purple on the surface of its body fades. Soon after, it cries out with a wah. Alive! Alive! Even the child is alive. It's really amazing. Long live the miss. The women imprisoned in the underground palace, seeing this scene, think of their dead children, and each and every one of them grieve. If they had met this girl earlier, would their children have been able to survive? But in the end, the main culprits are these beasts who imprisoned them and wantonly defiled them. Chenlingyu tightly holds the baby in her arms, tears streaming down her cheeks. Tired from crying, the baby falls into a deep sleep. Only then does Chenlingyu look at Mayan. Did you save me and my child? She's not like the others, deeply grateful to Mayan for saving her life. Her eyes were as calm as a pool of stagnant water, as if there were no ripples in them at all. Shui Yan hurriedly said, "Senior Sister Chin, it was young miss who pulled you back from the gates of hell. You don't even know that you didn't even breathe or have a heartbeat just now. You saved my life and my child's. The rest of my life belongs to you." Chenlingyu calmly interrupts Shui Yan's words, looking straight at Mayan, "But before that, I have one thing to do. Gong Qinshue, I must take revenge with my own hands." When the 3 words Gong Qinshue were spat out from her lips and teeth, it was as if they had been torn and ground up countless times, carrying a hatred that could devour the heart and burn the bones. Mu Yen says unhurriedly, "You decide your own fate, it has nothing to do with me. But if you want to find Gong Qinshue for revenge, I'm sorry, but you have to line up." She was not the only one who wanted to take revenge on Gong Qinshue in the Hellflame Valley. There were also Bai Yi Chen and Yan Haotian. Naturally, Chenlingyu could only sit at the back. Chenlingyu was stunned. But she heard Mayan chuckle and point to the tied-up man in yellow. "However, you can first collect a little interest from the Heavenly Road Sept and Gong Qinshue." Chenlingyu and the girls who were still conscious looked at the man in yellow. "You're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.